Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars, come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
Achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
And welcome into Thursday night on KLR Radio. Hopefully you guys are hanging out from the Culture Shift with Brad with the good hair and our Amish friend. And welcome into the program. This is Jen and Rick. I'm Rick, she's Jen, and we're back because I was off last week because I had a date. And then I got sick, so I took the weekend off. I don't know, maybe my date made me sick. Who knows?
You're like, yay, date. Nah, maybe not.
Yay, date. Oh, plague. Ugh.
Oh, plague again.
No, honestly, I think most of mine, because I finally gave up and bought some more Benadryl. And I think a lot of mine was allergies, because once I started taking a Benadryl here and there, I was like, oh, I can breathe again. But my voice is still gone, but it doesn't help that I talk like 40 hours a day either.
a million hours a week, I was gonna say. Yeah. Well, I know, like you and I were talking off air. Everybody that's kind of getting the crud ain't leaving. And it doesn't seem like, I mean, almost everyone I know that has had some kind of version of flu or just really bad sinus issues or whatever, it's just lingering and lingering from like January through all of February. And I've been a little bit of a victim of it myself, in addition to other allergies, like I was saying, like we've got cedar fever here. I'm in the middle of cedar. So it's just that time of year, guys. It's just that
Yeah,
time of year.
I am crazily allergic to cedar and didn't realize how allergic to cedar I was until we bought a house that was surrounded by them. I'm starting to think my ex-wife might have done that on purpose.
Well, it's funny. I go through seasons where I have it really bad and then others where I don't. So I don't know if there's like a specific age of certain trees that when they popped, I've read a little bit about that, that there can be variances in how irritating they are to certain people, depending on their age when their pollen is released. So could be the case that like the older the tree, not as irritating, the younger the tree, more irritating. Kind of like baby rattlesnake venom is stronger than adult rattlesnakes.
Yeah, maybe.
So, because I've noticed different, and like after we had that ice storm several years ago, that a bunch of our trees had to be cut down and like limbs broken off and everything, and there was a bunch of new growth. That next year, which was last fall, was when I had it the worst. Like the absolute worst was when there was all the new growth. Anyways,
Okay. So first thing I have to do is this. Nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. I guess I'll go eat worms. They're all hanging out on your feet again. We have 2 feet and yours is going nuts and mine's like crickets. And
yay!
also, damn it, Al, you've got a song stuck in my head now. All my friends are heathens. Take it slow. I hate you. Not really. Love you.
That is a good one though.
But yeah, I was supposed to be at CPAC, man. I even got approved for creds, and then with the plumbing thing, and then getting sick for the last month, I was just like, you know what? I'm not gonna with what I already have. I'm not bringing the DC plague home too, because
Right.
there's always a CPAC crud, always. But I'm so mad because I could have watched Elon Musk get a chainsaw.
Well, in 2020, the CPAC crud was COVID. So I didn't bring it home, but there were people that did.
Yeah, I finally had a chance to go, and I had everything all lined out, and then I had to pay $700 to get my septic pump and
Yeah,
my
that's never
septic
fun.
drain. So, yeah, I was like, I guess there goes my airfare," and then I got sick, and I was like, so, yeah. I emailed them, and I was like, we're not making it this year, but if CPAC Dallas is a thing, we might swing down there." And
Yeah, for
if
sure.
not, I'll try to be back next year 'cause
Yeah.
I missed because I remember when I first started doing this, it was awesome because it was like there was a convention like every few months all over the country, and I knew people that
Mhm,
were going to
mhm.
all of them, and I wanted to be one of those people that was just like, finding ways to go to every single one, and now there's like 2. Where'd they
Even
all
just
go?
a few, I don't know, because even just a few years ago, when you and I were really in full swing and
Traitor,
everything, went to like several oh, Rex. I went to like a red state one, I went to a federalist one, I went to multiple CPACs, as you know, representing KLRN. But yeah, it kind of seemed like there was always some sort of they weren't always like big conferences, but like some sort of gathering to go to and meet up with people and and hear people speak and all of that, and I kind of like the smaller ones better, because you get more actual
yeah,
like
I mean,
interactive time. There's a lot more Q&A. There's usually more interesting panelists that really sit, and instead of it being kind of these scripted speeches and whatnot, it really was extremely interactive between whoever was kind of like the host or the MC and then the panel. So, which is what CPAC always had before too, that kind of started disappearing the last years that I was going, and then before it turned full on TrumpCon for the last couple years, was all of the side panels that were in the smaller rooms that weren't in the main ballroom, and you could go and listen to something about, hear people talk about, our relationship with China. You could go hear them talk about homeschooling. You could hear them talk about women, teaching women to carry, and pro 2A with Maj Touré. Like You could hear them talk about the education system, hear someone do an economic policy debate. And that was all in these little smaller offshoot rooms with a little bit more of a personal feel, definitely more intimate, in addition to all the big name speakers on the big stages. So that's what I really, really loved the most about that, was that there was the option to go to all of these offshoot panels to really get some good nitty gritty into every single topic from people that really know what they're talking about, not just politicians playing lip service. So, um, I'm hearing that it's kind of back. It seems like it's rejuvenated a little bit now that they're not having to try to push to get Trump elected. So maybe, maybe it will be revived somewhat. And I would love to go with more Kayla and crew again in the future.
Definitely would love to do that. And yeah, apparently a lot of the folks that hadn't been going the last couple of years are back, which is another reason I'm really sad. But I remember getting so excited the first time I ever got approved for creds, which was SRLC 15 when they had it here in Oklahoma City. And that's another one that I can't ever seem to find any entries for it. And it used to move around, and now I just can't ever seem to find it. But I remember I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be on Radio Row with awesome people. And then because it was Oklahoma, none of the big people showed up, and I was sad.
I mean, honestly, I think that's a mistake because Oklahoma City is one of the most underrated cities.
Well,
I
I think so too, but yeah,
and it's
and
a
then my
great and it's a great place for a convention or for like a hosting like a sports championship of some kind. Like, the Big 12 tournament used to always be in Oklahoma City. It's a great place for that because there's a whole area that's like walking, shops and bars and restaurants and all of that. But like the city's so drivable, it's not too big, it's not so overcrowded that you can't get reservations places or just walk in. It has good hotels, it's got good venues. So I think it really gets overlooked because people hear Oklahoma and they go, meh. And I think that's a mistake. And it's also very affordable. So conventions should consider this. Any of you conservative organizations that usually hold conventions, you should absolutely consider Oklahoma City, in my opinion.
well, actually, they're actually building a brand new convention center, so it should hopefully bring things like that in. Oh my lord, my brother-in-law's in the chat on Facebook.
Oh
He found
boy.
me. He
I see
found me.
that.
Everybody run. He found me. Everybody run. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I mean, it was just and then my first trip to CPAC, I almost got tackled by Glenn Beck security because I was like, "Hey," and he's like, "Yeah, you can't come in here." I'm like, but and
What?
I'd never seen Glenn Beck in person. That dude is fucking tall. He doesn't look that tall when you see him on TV. Dude is tall. I was like, holy crap. But yeah, I almost got plowed by security that I think used to be Secret Service before they went private because dude looked like a linebacker. And yeah, he was like, you can't come through these ropes. I'm like, but I have a press pass. It doesn't matter. I just wanted to say hi, fucker. And then Glenn heard me and turned around and waved and then came over and said hi for a second and then went back to what he was doing. I thought that was pretty cool.
That is funny.
But anyway, so yeah, and then I went back. I guess it must have been 2017. I guess no, it had to be 2018 because I missed a year because I went in 2016 and because I went SRLC in 15, then I went to CPAC in 16, then JD and Stacy went to the RNC, which I'm figuring out how to do that next time
That
we do
now that would be
that.
fun.
Yeah, and I really wanted to do it this year, but with everything just falling the way it did, there was just no way. But I'm gonna figure it out for next time because I want to get us back to having those kind of security clearances and being able to go to big events like that. Because yeah, unfortunately, we did that under the other banner, so I kind of have to start over, which is kind of yeah, but whatever.
Sometimes I
Whatever.
forget that we were something else before Kale ran. Like every now
Well,
and then, I'm like, oh yeah,
yeah, JD still texts me from time to time. He was like, "I have a new
K98.
slogan." He's like, "I have a new slogan for K98." I'm like, "K98's defunct, bro." He's like, "You know what I mean?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do. But K98's defunct, bro. It's
Yep.
not our thing anymore." Speaking of which, did you hear? He's coming
What?
back. He's
I
coming
know I
back.
did hear. For anybody that was not around for the JD and Stacy era, have no fear. We are getting a reunion tour. No, a reunion show, basically. So they're coming back, and they're one of the first shows I ever went on, and they really gave me a shot in a lot of ways, and not just there, but, like, also following me on Twitter and pumping me up on things and calling me from CPAC and, um, trying to get me involved with all kinds of things, so I'm forever grateful to them, but also they're just really entertaining, and they're knowledgeable, and it's fun, but when I, like, had an infant at home and they did their Sunday morning show and I was up super early with my kiddo, I'd be making breakfast and drinking Bloody Mary for Bloody Marys and broadsheets with them.
Bloody Marys and Broadsheets was, like, their unsung show, man. It was awesome. It was
Yeah,
like
and it was
everybody loved Game On with JD and Stacy, and that one was actually my favorite because it was just
me
so much
too.
fun.
It was like, at 9 AM on Sunday morning, like, perfect for me, and, yeah, it was just a lot of fun, and also it was, like, fairly unhinged. It was a little less like it was kind of the week wrap up, and then a lot of interaction with the audience, which was pretty like, chat was pretty big back then.
Yeah.
Um, that was like the original chat group, like, that was crazy. So, anyways, that's really cool news. Um,
That's where a lot of our OG Chat Lives Matter folks came from.
yeah, absolutely. So, anyways, well, Cash got confirmed.
Yeah, much to the chagrin of everybody on the left because they were trying so hard not to make it happen.
I mean, at this point, we kind of talked about this before, a few, maybe like a month or so ago after the inauguration, where, this used to be more of course, if there was a reason to really push back and to really be concerned about someone, you would. But for the most part, like appointments used to be pretty cut and dry. Like the president wants it, it's at his pleasure. So we push them through and confirm unless there's like a really big security issue. Well, the people that would have been like fallen under that umbrella for of Trump's appointments already got through. So you're gonna have to push him through too. Sorry about it.
Dude, I mean, it was all this pro forma BS, and then you had Murkowski and the other one that was like, "I'm a no vote," and like nobody cares. I mean, hell, at that point, even McConnell could have voted no, and they would have just had Vance break the tie. He'd have been like, "Damn it! Every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in, and I had to go do it again." But it would have happened. I mean, and the whole thing is, I don't really even get it because at this point, I understand why the Republicans usually rubber stamp the Democratic appointments, and I've heard people in Congress tell me this. They're like, "Look, it's not our team, it's not our picks. If they screw up, they have to answer for it." So I don't really understand why the Democrats, for the most part, don't take that same tack unless there really is some sort of huge problem. And everybody seems to forget that Kash Patel was part of a different administration way back a while ago, which I thought was interesting when I heard that earlier today. I was like, "Wait, he was part of what administration again?" And the Democrats hate him because apparently
Well,
he was in some sort of like small way involved with the Obama administration or something.
hmm
And
that
I'm
doesn't
like,
surprise me, but but they of course they hate him because if it's a Trump pick, then they can't endorse it, for the most part. Like they've got to be something's got to be wrong with it because they're in cahoots with the big bad orange man. So that's always going to be an issue. But um, I'm just kind of glad for this to be this part of the beginning of it. Like at first, it's kind of exciting, but the way they drug this on and they kept delaying hearings and they kept using every single minute of the time that could be allotted, knowing that it wasn't going to change anything, just wasting time, wasting money, wasting our TV airwaves. I am just glad for this to be over so that we can continue to focus on the business at hand.
well, the problem is they were trying to fundraise off of it and it didn't work. The
Yeah, is the
Democrat,
TNC still broke?
yeah, the Democratic fundraising is in the toilet, and it's not just because USAID is basically defunct at this point. It's because nobody's donating to them. I mean, hell, I'm pretty sure Spooky Dude and the spawn of Spooky Dude aren't even picking up the phone anymore because nobody realized until we started doing a deep dive into as I call them now, USSAID, that they were actually using our money to fund all their bullshit, not even their own. These people are billionaires, and they're using tax money to destroy the American people. Fuck them with a rusty cactus sideways. And I know cactuses can't rust, but I was riffing, so don't judge me too harshly.
Well, this is the problem with the whole uh, sort of. entangled web that the left has pretty brilliantly created, right? As they've gotten their tentacles into everything, into education, into various aspects of the economy, some of it through funding like this. It's just gone and interwoven so deep that it's hard to ever untangle it. And it's just been there, and it's continued to be funded. All sorts of pet projects, all sorts of um, money going to completely unelected people who are then funding projects that were not, you know, technically allotted money from Congress in any sort of way. And it's just incestuous to the point of where they just got so used to that being the way it was, and they're so used to being able to control all of that stuff. And so it's so deep seated in government, society, culture, and everything. They have media, they have academia, they have so much of the bureaucracy that it's unfathomable to them that they are not going to get that anymore. The same way it's always unfathomable to them whenever power switches at all, whenever the House shifts, whenever the Senate shifts, whenever the Oval gets lost. Like it's always like it's got to be something else because, and I'm well aware that Trump also claimed it had to be something else, but I'm just saying, like, this is always the MO of the Dems. And now that the very rug underneath them is being pulled, um, they don't have they don't have anywhere to go. I mean, the well's running dry, the projects are getting killed, and they're no longer able to manipulate everything like the puppet master anymore. So, they're going to do their damnedest to hang on, and they're going to still have some traction, of course, but it's mostly watching, their foundation crumble that they very quietly and nefariously have been building since really the 60s.
And I'm glad to see it finally happening. The one of the things that I thought was absolutely amazing was that apparently the new head of the EPA found $2 billion that was earmarked for the president of Earth, otherwise known as Stacey Abrams, for those of you who are not Star Trek fans. Like, that was just slid, like, under the doormat, out the door on the way, under the doormat, under the door on the way out. And he's like, $2 billion? Really? And the funny thing is, they had like 21 days to disperse the money, but then they also had like 90 days to take you have to figure out how to budget course before they could disperse the money. And I'm thinking, shouldn't you have made them take this course before you handed them $2 billion? Kind of thinking you should have made them take this course before you handed them $2 billion. How do I get some of this? See, I just feel like I have just been way too honest in my life. Do you know what I could have done with $2 billion?
I mean, I think that there's a I don't know. I think there's also something about all of this where people, like you said, like, shouldn't you have already known how to do it? But they're so used to just taking like directives and like do what you say. And what is this? Okay, yeah. And then also then being misled by all the people that do want to manipulate things. They're like, it didn't really occur to them that they need to be knowledgeable in certain areas.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things that made this most blatantly like some sort of a shut up and go away kind of thing from Biden was in 2023, the same green energy group founded by Stacey Abrams received $100. In 2024, they got 2 billion with a B, billion, like, Dr. Evil billion. I want to make this point very clear because what we're talking about in the media right now is like 1% of what they have found so far. And it's just insane because they're finding this same crazy stuff happening everywhere. USAID was literally the tip of the iceberg. Now they're finding billions of dollars in EPA earmarks that nobody can explain. Nobody understands why they happen. Imagine what's going to happen when they finally get in and start looking at the IRS because you want to talk about a fraudulent group of people. Whew. I just,
Yeah,
I,
I you
I
just
need more.
mentioned one though. You just mentioned one though that like a lot of people have not been. Everybody's talked about the IRS. Everybody's talking about, all some of the the places that Doge has already been looking into in the SEC and all of that kind of stuff. But like, I am really interested in the EPA because they have been so dysregulated and wildly overfunded for decades now. They're operating off of old congressional acts that are basically not obsolete at this point. The Clean Air Act is was passed in the 60s, like, and has had some addendums made, but for the most part it's still operating as if all of our cars are the way that they were in 1968. And it's just not true. They are cleaner, they are more efficient. And so we've got all these regulatory um mandates for states and for industries that are based off of that act. I just think there's a lot of that there within the EPA, and because they are so completely activist motivated, that I think that's going to be one. And they've been able to get away with it. They've been able to get away with a lot of political activism. So I think that's going to be one that's going to be really interesting to see what they find when they dig in.
Well, I think the biggest thing that I think is gonna hit them the hardest is them going through and doing away with the judiciary within the administrative branch, because a lot of people don't know that's a thing. They have administrative law judges in almost every department in the executive branch, and it's nuts. And why does it matter that Doge is run by 23-year-olds? 23-year-olds can go to war. What's the difference?
I mean, 23-year-olds and younger that dropped out of college started some of the most major corporations in the world
I was running my own
in
company.
in their garages.
I was
Mike
running
Patel.
my I was running my own company by 24.
But
Just
yeah, so I just think that that's gonna be one that I think will be a lot more interesting. I think some of these other things, like we've already seen some stuff come out. People want it to be bombastic, but it's just really not. Like, it's kind of mundane. Like, yes, they're finding the dollars of where there's waste, which is great because I think a lot of people wanted to find a lot of fraud, and there is fraud, and that fraud will be highlighted whenever it is found. But that wasn't the initial purpose of this. The initial purpose was, if there's fraud, find it. Yes, but what they really aimed to do was find and cut the absolute behemoth that bureaucratic waste is. And so that was, that they are finding. They're finding the redundancies. They are finding the unnecessary jobs, areas, projects, buildings, whatever they are. And I think, the EPA being just kind of as ridiculous and loose as it's been all these years, because, well, they're the Environmental Protection Agency, and you've got to protect the environment. We all love the environment, so we've got to fund it, whatever they ask. That's kind of been the way it's
well, that's been
operated
their
for so
go-to.
long.
That's been their go-to for forever, but that's one of the things that drives me the most crazy about the left's argument, because the Earth's environment is an enclosed system. We have done everything we can reasonably do to make our corner of the environment as clean as possible. But we have also moved a lot of our manufacturing to the other side of the world, so nobody sees how much we are actually still polluting in countries like China, and now starting to pollute in countries like India. And so is everybody else. And again, it's an enclosed system. So the not in my backyard policies are really, really cool because our stuff looks all green and fancy and shiny and blue skies. But then China holds the Olympics and they have to put fans around to blow all the smog out so they can get their cool
Well,
beer.
that's a lot of it too, though, is so, pulling out of the Paris Accords again, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, I don't care," and whatever. Well, the thing is that you can have people sign this piece of paper all you want to and say, "Yes, we in solidarity will," blah 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 blah. But until you actually force the hand of the major polluters of the world, um, eh, we are at a low. Most of Europe is at a low until you really force the hands of some of the South American countries, of the Indian countries, and all throughout that kind of Eurasia corner, or big mass actually. Then and especially China, one of the worst offenders on the planet, then it's just a joke. It's just a performative joke to pat everybody on the back and say, look, we're good environmental stewards. And, I think one of the ways in which they really got they got their nails in long ago was because, for the most part, a lot of conservatives are pro conservation, right? Like, we also love nature, love our national parks, love, the environment, want to do right, but we're not just going around throwing trash on the ground and like, screw you, green earth. Like, That's not the way it is. Most people in general, whether they are liberal or conservative or somewhere in between, do care about our planet. They care about the animals that inhabit it. They care about the humans that do and the quality of life that all of us will have. They care about our forests. They care about our, vegetation. They care about how all of that is cared for and what might destroy some of it. And so it's really easy for people to for them to have manipulated, particularly decades ago, when everybody was in shock about the ozone and about the coming ice age. Oh no, wait, global warming. Oh no, wait, this. Oh no, wait, that. And there was less information available to the public on it, so it was much more easy for them to be able to manipulate that and kind of bend everything to their will and get whatever they wanted out of it.
Yeah, I mean, and all of it is nuts because again, that's like look at the difference between most of the time when Democrats protest anything versus when conservatives protest anything. We usually leave the place better than we found it when we left. Look at what they usually leave behind, which is another thing that drives me crazy because if you're gonna be pro Mother Earth, you should probably be pro Mother Earth all the time, not just when people are paying attention. And that's the thing. We're talking about all these things that have been technology that has existed since the 60s. And we have ways to do things better. Like we don't,
And we
Trump's
are, and we are doing them better.
yeah, and we are, but I mean, Trump's made this huge deal about getting rid of the paper straws, which thank God for that because they're terrible. But if we really want to start doing things about the trash islands floating in our oceans and everything else, we could stop making plastics out of petroleum and start making them out of hemp. But we can't because hemp's cousin is a Schedule One narcotic, and you can't use hemp now unless you have a waiver, which is only granted to the military. So
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of solutions and for other clean energy sources, for renewable energies. There's a lot of things that could be done that should fall under the EPA's umbrella, as opposed to some of the nonsense, funding and projects and billions they're wasting it on.
But yeah, Al, before he headed up the door, made a good point. He's like, the fraud isn't really on the spreadsheet. The fraud is happening when the project is subcontracted and then subcontracted again, etc. I don't necessarily consider that much fraud as I do more like a waste and abuse kind of thing because they start padding the invoices. We've seen this with everything the government gets involved in.
And it just
It's-
adds to the corruption, the cronyism.
yeah, exactly. But it's something that has to be dealt with. One of the things, and I've been screaming for this since I've started discussing politics, because most governors have this, and I never really have understood why the president hasn't had it, especially when it comes to budgetary bills. He needs line item veto. So that way the bill can still be passed, but the extra shit in it that they try to cram through at the last minute, if he doesn't want it in there, he can just initial and say, yeah, no, this is out. That needs to be a thing because that would fix so much of this crap. The other thing that would fix it, and I'm screaming this and have been for years, is we need to get back to one issue, one bill, and just put as many through as you need to till you get everything done. But that way, there's maybe 7, 8 pages tops, maybe 10,000, 11,000 words. Maybe start using more plain English since we know that nobody in this country can read right now. So everybody can understand what it is that you're trying to do instead of trying to sound like a bunch of fancy attorneys until we get people back to being able to use Latin on a regular basis again. So that we can put them online and people can follow along. Technology is there to include the populace in the things that we're doing. Just because we aren't a direct democracy doesn't mean that people shouldn't be able to have an input. And this whole thing, and this is one of the things that I disagree with the president wholeheartedly, because he's taking this cram-to-bus approach again, using reconciliation, and they're trying it again. There's already 2 or 3 Democratic senators that are trying to add amendments for things like supposedly cheap housing and blah blah blah, but they're not putting it anywhere. What is it they're trying? And all they're doing every time it gets voted down is see every Republican said no. Did you put anywhere what your amendment was actually for, or just your little 2-sentence ex post? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yes.
But it's just all of the I'm glad to see the things that they're doing, and it's happening in a much faster pace than I expected it to. But at the same time, because I'm just one of those people that wants to see it getting done, I still feel like it's not happening fast enough. Like I'm actually mad at Congress right now because they should have had, from the moment they knew they won, they should have already started getting together behind the scenes on phones, on Skypes, on what the fuck ever they had access to, and started putting together single item bills and just sent a stack of them to his desk on day one and just been done. They already knew he wanted no tax on tips. Fine, write it up as a standalone bill. Could have been 2 pages. Could have already been signed. They already knew that he wanted no tax on Social Security for people that are at a certain income level. Fine. Single item bill could have already been done and signed. All this stuff could have already been being worked on in pieces instead of this big beautiful bill approach, which I don't understand because that's the last thing any of us said we wanted. That's what
And
we've been screaming about the whole
and like
time.
and like you said, it's what takes up the most time. It also is what um becomes an issue because of what they sneak in, and every single one of these congressmen know how to make that happen. So, yeah, no, just give us the straightforward stuff, and and then it passes or it doesn't. You know? Just put it out there and it passes or it doesn't. But that is the most transparent and honest way to go about legislating. And you can still, you can still lobby for votes. You can still go, go about your normal um behind the scenes way of Congress trying to, whip the vote. But at least do it on this one thing, this one time. Have the vote honestly, and if it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If it does, it goes to the president's desk, and we're done.
Yeah, and I mean at that point, at least then you can actually see one, what is being voted on. You've had enough time to read it and understand it. And if you don't, hopefully somebody's been able to help you understand it. And
Right.
then you can look at the people that voted. And if you were for it and they voted against it and they're your Congress critters, you know how to climb up their ass and do something about it.
Well, not only that, but it is a good way to try out the language of something and then go, "Oh, that's not really what presented well to the public. So we need to rework it. We need to figure out like what is better, like what works more that is going to get more you know, to sign off on this, to pass off." Um, because there's a lot of times where they go back to the drawing board. You thought, "Okay, well, this sounds good and this would pass," but, it's not passing because, "Oh, there are these 2 lines in there that at least 10 people of your own party are going to object to. Okay, we've gotta figure that out." You know what I mean? It really does help with a more, transparent and communicative process if it goes about that way, as opposed to 2,000 page, you know, boom bills that just you can't even wrap your head around that they want you to then pass within 72 hours. There's just no way.
Well, that's like the border bill from the previous administration. I have friends that do talk radio and do other news channel stuff from around here that were calling me, screaming at me for my stance on it on X. They're like, if this wasn't an election year, that would have passed. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Did you read the middle or just the first few pages? Because you really should have read the middle, and then nothing ever would have closed. All it ever did was even if the emergency would have been invoked, it just said they had to come in through ports of entry. They were already supposed to be doing that anyway.
Right. Well,
So
and
what?
that is the other thing, even about some of Trump's executive orders, even about some of the things that they're proposing to do in this next year as his first year in office. There are so many things, and Congress wastes time on this a lot, where we're writing bills for things that, or he's signing an executive order for things that actually are just our laws that need to be enforced. They're already there. It's already a part of it. Particularly in certain, they just need to be enforced. We don't need another gun bill, to protect da, 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 da. Well, yeah, no shit, murder's illegal. Owning a gun as a felon is illegal. Not being, all of these things. And they want extra bills to pass it to make it extra illegal. No, it's already illegal. It's just enforce that. The illegal immigration factor. Well, we need to pass this and this and this. No, we actually don't really need a comprehensive border bill because we already have comprehensive border law. Now, we could have bills about how to streamline certain processes, about how to, more effectively utilize the border agents, more effectively utilize the various points of entry and the administrative work to be able to move it through faster, to cut down the time in court, maybe have issues, have more public immigration attorneys assigned near the border to be able to process them faster, those kinds of things. But the actual, like, we need to be allowed, like Texas having to fight to say we need to be allowed to put up a border at all,
Yeah,
is redundant.
that's insane to me.
We can't have buoys in when they fought us when the Biden administration fought them for having buoys in the Rio Grande to slow down the flooding of immigrants coming across it. And they said, no, you can't do that. You can't put buoys up. You can't do that.
I'm still
I mean,
waiting.
it's like these are not things that it does not need an extra bill to be passed to say that, yes, you can do that to enforce our border. It's part it's already on the books. We are a sovereign nation, and we are
I'm
allowed to.
I'm still waiting for the freshwater sharks with freaking laser beams. That's what I'm
Well,
waiting for.
speaking of, borders and, a more absolutely heinous situation, can we talk about the Beavis family for just a minute?
Yeah, I was we're getting close to the end, so I figured I'd bring it up now.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you've heard the latest about.
Oh, yeah. I think. So you go first, and then I'll tell you if I've heard, but I think I know what you're talking about.
So, first of all, they switched the bodies of the children, like, knowingly switched them in their coffins, so they were labeled wrong, right? And underneath them, they had, like, so they have them labeled, and then they have, the name they show Netanyahu, a picture of him with underneath it, and they're basically, like, blaming Israel for their deaths. That's what they're putting, like, as their deaths. Um, they had to have the Israel had to have a bomb squad check the coffins to make sure they hadn't rigged them with explosives, because this has been a problem. They locked the coffins, they gave them the wrong keys. Sure. Sure, sure, sure. So they locked him and gave him the wrong keys. And then they, just to be even more absolutely heinous and torturous, um, for Cherie's coffin, it had her picture on it, and then it said date of arrest, October 7th. Arrest. Date of arrest. And then it turns out they have now done DNA testing on her body, and these are not her remains. They have not received back Sherry, Bibas' body.
Yeah, apparently they gave them the wrong one.
They didn't give them the wrong one. They knew exactly what they were doing.
Well, no, I'm not. I didn't say they accidentally gave them the wrong one. I said they
Yeah.
gave them the wrong one.
I mean, and then in addition to the fact that they live streamed this, they made a spectacle of it. There were cheers, there were celebrations, there was music playing in the background. They made a edited video of the day, spliced all the moments of the day together as they turned this over to the Red Cross. I mean, it is just absolutely demented. It is so evil. It is so disgusting. So I liked this one tweet that just kind of drove it home. He said, on purpose. They kidnapped two babies on purpose. They starved them and murdered on purpose. They returned two babies in a coffin with the wrong names on purpose. They wore white gloves and masks transporting them on purpose. They locked the coffins with keys on purpose. They provided the wrong keys on purpose. They live streamed it all on purpose. They celebrated with their kids and families on purpose. They will be destroyed on purpose.
And I don't even remember who it was, but there's somebody who's actually fairly decent sized account who's been pro-Palestinian now for a while, and after today, he was like, "I've finally realized what a mistake I've made." I don't know how long he'll stay awake, but it's nice to see it starting to happen.
Well, here's the problem, and this is what, and I'm sorry that it took two dead babies for this to be, um, to betray this to so many people, but it's something that a lot of us have said for a long time, and I know that it's a hard thing for people to wrap their heads around and to accept. So Hamas has now been in control for decades. The party that preceded them was much the same, right? But they have been in control for decades, and you've gotten to a point now where their culture is so indoctrinated with Hamas ideology, with it, and it is so indoctrinated with it. They are so brainwashed by it. And have been long before Hamas was even the one who took power, that there's not really anyone left to be the ones that were uh, like the Germans that were like, I don't agree with the Nazis, but I also don't want to go to a camp. So I'm going to help whatever little ways I can. And then I'm going to try to escape with my family. You know what I mean? I mean, these people can escape. They can leave, and they're not. And independent polls are run by, and have been run by, almost every major news organization in the world. And every time it comes back 85, 90, 97% in support of Hamas. That is not a Palestinian government releasing a poll of propaganda. This is the BBC World News. This is the New York Times. This is, CNN's Middle Eastern division going in and trying to get a sample. And I mean it every single time. So, unfortunately, whatever portion of non-Hamas supporting Palestinians that existed has greatly diminished in the last few decades. And no matter how hard it is for us to understand how unimaginable it is, this is a regime and a culture supported by the people. They can't really be separated anymore. And I know we've tried. Oh, they're so innocent, and there's this, and there's people that don't. They are not Hamas. The civilians are not Hamas. They are. Some of these hostages were held by civilians. There's evidence now that Cherie Bibas and her 2 children were not taken directly by Hamas. They were taken by civilians and paraded and threatened and then held and then given to Hamas. Those are the civilians. And
Well,
it's
I mean,
unconscionable for us to think about as the kind of country we are, and the freedoms and the you know, uh, just even the ability for open discourse that we have, and the nonconformity in a lot of ways. And I know we talk about indoctrination a lot. I know we talk about groupthink a lot, but it's nowhere close to this level. And it is just so ingrained in those people and in that culture that I'm sorry to say I don't think that there's any more to separate.
the truth of it is Middle Eastern civilization, and I use that term loosely, and Western civilization are completely incompatible with one another. That's just the truth of it. There's just no way around it. And the thing about it is, I think and this isn't. I'm not chastising anyone, but I think we need to stop using a very specific word, because when it comes to Palestinians, there are no such thing as civilians.
And that's what I'm getting at. They are all one and the same. You might have a pocket of 25 people here or there that understand, or have had their eyes opened, or have turned to Christ, or something that has made them think that this is wrong. But and maybe they are making small little efforts, but again, uh, they're supposed to be allowed to leave. They have typically enjoyed um, the ability to trespass between Gaza and Israel, and sometimes other countries, but several of them are really strict because guess what? They don't want them either.
Well,
They
that's
know
just
they're
it.
not bringing the snakes in.
Well, that's just it. Egypt tried decades ago, and then I keep calling them Palestinians. I need to fix that because I usually call them Gazans. I don't know why I'm using that word tonight. But the Gazans were starting to do the same bullshit in Egypt, so they threw them back out again. There's a reason these people don't
Well,
want them.
they had issues in Jordan as well. And so, the Jordan's leaders have, and the king especially, has been very firm in, okay, we will send you some people to help, with X, Y, and Z, but no, we are not taking in refugees.
Well, I thought it was the king of Jordan that said that they would take in like sick children, but no adult refugees. But I might be misquoting. I don't remember.
They, like I said, they had very specific stipulations about a few things that they would do to help, but it was not, yes, we'll just take in and have migrant camps and have refugee camps. We're not doing that. We're not taking in and assimilating refugees because they don't assimilate, number one. And number two, that so it is infested. I mean, it really is. So it sucks. And again, it's not what people want to hear. And when you come from the Western world and there's a lot more benefit of the doubt given, and you just think about, oh, the poor women and children, and oh, this, and like, well, surely they don't want to be treated this way. And surely nobody could possibly, that wasn't a crazy jihadist, wouldn't possibly think this way. You think of them being these psychotic men willing to blow themselves up at any time, when in reality the culture of the Palestinian government, of Hamas, of Muslim Jihad, and pretty much every terroristic tendency, it has been ingrained. Death to Jews from the river to the sea. This is not new, and this is not hyperbole. They've
And
shown that, and they've proven that time and time again, and every time they do make any sort of organized effort, what do you see in the streets? Every time they have a dead body to parade, what do you see in the streets? celebrations. They were interviewing one of the old grandmas talking like proudly about holding one of the hostages in her family home. She was happy, she was proud to exclaim it on television that was going to be played internationally. They are not the same as us. They
And we
are not
need
the same as Israelis.
and we need to stop pretending that they are. One of the
Exactly.
things that Amish and I talked about this last night, but one of the things that while I thought it was terrible that it was happening, there was an Islamic protest in New York City, and there was a Jewish counter protest. And at one point, the Islamists started screaming from the river to the sea, and the Jews started shouting back that Trump owns Gaza.
This whole situation to be able to flip it and they're like, well, and I mean, there's a journalist that works for the BBC that today says if Israelis didn't hate Palestinians more than they love their own, the Beavis children would be alive today. That is so absolutely fucking demented. They did not ask to be taken. They did not go into Gaza and do anything. And as someone else pointed out somewhere else today, I'll have to find it, but, most of these people that were taken were living in kind of, you know, some of the most liberal kind of, there were some communes actually that some of these people were taken from, but kind of what you're like idealistic, liberal, hippie, we love everybody kind of areas closer to the border that often have given their own money to provide aid, that have given clothes off their back, that are the first to think that like, oh, maybe we should let them have their own state. That a lot of the people in these areas are not ultra religious Jews. They're Israelis, and this still happened. So it's not like they went after radicals. I mean,
Well,
it's just so disgusting to then say, well, if they didn't hate Palestinians, we wouldn't have to have come and slaughtered 1,000 people or taken them hostage and starved and tortured them. Go fuck yourself. That is so outrageously disgusting. And not only that, but as someone who works for the BBC, that is incredibly irresponsible.
it's all of it is just insane. And something else that I wanted to talk about on the way out the door, and I'm gonna say this right now. I was gonna play the clip, but I don't think I'm going to because we're almost done, and I'll be pissed off and up all night again if I do. But there is a video going around of somebody that's supposedly a Ukrainian soldier who is ripping the subdued American flag off of their helmet in protest. First of all, this dude looks like he's some sort of crisis actor because his uniform looks completely neat, clean, and pressed. He doesn't look like somebody that's been in combat. My other question is, as far as I know, by rule, when we sell our stuff to third party, all insignia are supposed to be removed. So why is our flag on his helmet in the first place? That annoys me.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I'm not sure it's not. I I would like to wait to see if it's verified that's actually a Ukrainian soldier or if it was, like you said, an actor, like a performative whatever, because it just doesn't seem real. And again, like you said, like why the hell is there an American flag on that helmet to begin with? And then also just took it off like it was just like a sticker, like a
Well, that's
like a reusable sticker.
Well, that's just it. On the helmets and the uniforms now, especially on the BDU style, they use Velcro, so you can actually rip them off and put them right back on. But as far as I know, for third party, anytime we sell our stuff to anybody else, they're not supposed to send the flags with them. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they might not have been able to buy
Some
one.
Yeah, or that something doesn't slip through the cracks here or there. I don't know. I just thought it was way too on point. It was way too like, oh, look at me giving the FU to America and to Trump. I don't even buy like that. We're gonna find out that some dude in Seattle
Yeah, probably.
in his mom's basement.
Oh, I wanted to bring this up too, and I almost forgot until you mentioned Seattle. Did you hear what's going on in Oregon?
No, what? What
Like
now?
the eastern part of Oregon wants to secede and become part of
No.
Iowa.
I
There's
don't blame
actually
them.
there's actually a movement for the entire eastern part of Oregon. They wanna break off and join Idaho.
I
I
mean,
was
I don't blame them. There's
dying.
a good part of that area. There's a good part of Oregon and a good part of Washington State that are pretty red, but they just can't outnumber the big cities.
Well, yeah, it's the eastern side, like, because Washington State's the same way. Everything west of the mountain is nuts, and everything east of I mean, and the weird thing is, because I used to live there, everything east of the mountain, like the Puyallup area, is, like, all flat and looks a lot like where I came from here, and then you go over the mountain, and everything's big, hilly, green, lushy, snow all the time, and everybody's just nuts, and it's funny because after my divorce, I really was starting to look at maybe moving. And I have a friend who lives in Seattle, and she's like, "Yeah, don't come here." She's like, we don't even live in Seattle anymore, and we're still trying to get away from where we've moved to."
I mean, I'll tell you, even back before like the craziness of COVID and whatever, two of my former employees, very liberal, they were young. And so they decided, okay, they'd lived in Austin, which was cool, but now they're going to go live in Seattle, which is so cool. And one of them is like super uber, like rad femme liberal, right? And she comes back. They moved back after like, I think they lived there 3 or 4 years. They've moved back. And the one girl tells me, the super rad femme liberal, the other one's like a little bit more in between. She grew up in Lubbock. She grew up in West Texas. So she's not as quiet, but like she's definitely was like in her younger, I'm a liberal era. I'm so smart, 22-year-old. But the one that was like Radfem, I mean, she seriously, she comes and we meet up with them when and she and I always butted head over politics, obviously. But we're hanging out, having drinks, and she's like, "Oh my God, Jen, I'm telling you though, it is batshit crazy." And I'm like, so I mean, just because of like the homeless situation and this and then she goes, "No, absolutely everything. You can't say anything to anybody without it getting offended. You'll get called into HR for everything. Like it's so confusing who's a they and who's a this and who's a whatever." And she's like, "I mean, I'm sorry, but they are fucking crazy." And she's like, "You know, if I'm She's like, "I am the most liberal person most anybody that we know has ever met, and, like, if I am saying that," and she's like, "They're too liberal for me. They're too fucking liberal for me." And she goes, "And the thing is most of them don't even believe it. They don't even believe it. They're all putting on the hat because they think they're supposed to, and it's what gets them likes, and gets them pats on the back. It's what gets them promoted. It's what makes them look good. They go to all the marches and all the things," and she's like, "It's total bullshit. Then they're all saying racist shit behind everybody's back, or they're all doing this or that. It's bullshit."
Welcome to liberal hypocrisy 101. You finally figured it out.
I know. I was like, and so she's still definitely left us and like especially socially, all that stuff. But like, man, it was an eye opener for her where she was like, "Get me the fuck back to Texas."
Yeah, well, it wasn't enough of an eye
Didn't-
opener because she didn't quite figure out that that's how it is
no,
everywhere.
they never will. But to her, Austin was like liberal enough, but like nowhere. Because that's why I always laugh when people are like, "Oh, little San Francisco or little Portland or whatever." I'm like, y'all have no idea. No, it's not.
Yeah,
It's
no,
really
no,
not.
it's not.
It's really not.
No, I mean,
It's a fun joke to make, but it's absolutely nowhere close. And
well,
there's
yeah,
a lot I lament about it, but
it's liberal to us. It's kind of like Norman and Tulsa here,
I mean,
because,
that's what
but
she was like. Austin is plenty liberal for me, but compared to Seattle, it is like the reddest conservative city that you'd go to.
all right.
Anyways,
Well, believe it or not, ma'am, we are just about out of time. Where can folks find you?
mostly over there on Twitter. I'm still calling it Twitter because it makes more
Twitter.
sense.
Yeah.
At J Homestead, but I'm everywhere at J Homestead. I'm only on X though, and then also at Misfits Politics on Twitter as well.
I was gonna say I thought dead naming was wrong. Just saying.
Nope, don't care.
We're yelling at the AP about saying Gulf of Mexico. I thought dead naming was wrong. Just kidding. All right. As far as finding me, I'll be here in a minute running boards for the folks over at SHR Media. BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon is going to be our closing act, so belly up to the bar and hang out until last call. The information is never watered down in neither of the drinks. You can find me here tomorrow afternoon, noon to 3, doing the Rick Robinson Show. We'll have a guest in hour 1, so make sure you guys hang out for that. We'll be back tomorrow night doing He Said, She Said with the lovely Aggie Rican. And then John and I should have a Going Mental. I think we're going to move that one to once a month because it makes things easier for him. And plus, I've been sick a lot, so I'm trying to cut back on my workload just a little bit because I think I might be overdoing it. But don't tell anybody I said anything. Then Saturday night, I'll be pushing buttons for the Front Porch Forensics crew. starting, I think, at 9 Eastern. And then Amish and I are going to do a special 1-hour makeup episode of Juxtaposition since we missed last week. And then I'm off Sunday. Other than that, you can find me at RowdyVic73. You can follow along with the network at KLRM Radio. You can find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, all under the same names. And you can find me as a contributor on MisfitsPolitics.com, occasionally TheLoftusParty.com, Twitchy.com, and coming soon to BuffoonOfTheWeek.com, because let's face it, I don't already do enough. That's it. We're getting out of here. Stay tuned for BZ next.
Yesterday,
Wrong button. That's not the right one. There we go.
Hello, friends. You have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've
Extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show, where I am broadcasting from North Idaho in an actual free state. I happen to be your conservative Sherpa, who occasionally it's heard looks like this or this. Anyway, I am guiding you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. That's why I'm here. Please note what you're about to hear for this show, whether it be 1 hour, 2 hours. Like normal, it ends when it ends. Maybe I've got enough for 2 hours. Maybe I don't. Probably I've got more material than for 1 hour. But that's just between me and you. So what am I doing? I am doing the job that the American media maggots won't. I am fundamentally changing America, one leftist red diaper doper baby at a time. I don't want to tell you this. We don't water our drinks, just like we don't water our conversations. We are still serving stiff drinks here in the saloon, along with facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, clarity. I like the new one, clarity, tradition, and common sense for normal people, which is why you're here with me tonight. Politics, religion, crime, culture, race, sex, economics, science, law. We talk about it all right here in the saloon where the speech is free, but the booze is not. I am streaming live on, let's see if I have this, all of these various places right here. Spreaker, YouTube, the SHR Media YouTube channel. Streaming live on Rumble, on X, my X, Twitter, at BZ's Saloon. At BZ's Saloon. And also on Twitch, Facebook Live, and KLRN Radio. And with regard to KLRN Radio, I want to say hello and thanks to KLRN's Rick Robinson, who's getting better. He had a little bit of the flu going. There's a lot of the flu going on. Jersey Joe has been down for a while. Sean of Edge of Liberty is having equipment problems, but who doesn't these days? And we have a bunch of people that happen to be in the chat room already. It looks like Lost Wanderer is here. Jeremy Hansen is here. Mission Ready Men are here. All 17 of them being mission ready themselves. And of course, Rick Robinson from Klern Radio, Klern, And he's right. He says they have pills for that. That's true. Who invented Rick here? Who invited Rick here? And Lost Wanderer, if things go well, as I hope they do, Lost Wanderer may be wandering over to maybe a little bit of my show to try to find out who is this guy and how and why does he show up in chat. This is so weird. Last Tuesday, I had a viscous troll, vicious, like vicious fishes. And he was just, he was pummeling me over in Rumble. Pummel. And, the funny thing was, I decided I'm not going to respond. And after throwing out zingers, he, it, she, them, them, decided that they were going to go away. I found that rather amusing. Hey, I want to remind everybody of this before I'm going to do this early. Well, first, tonight is a compilation of, I'm going back in time a little bit to USAID and then updating it because there's some new stuff that just came out recently. I heard from somebody that I thought was super intelligent. And as a matter of fact, I've stolen a lot of stuff from him for the show. And then he went someplace in an interview with Tucker Carlson that I hadn't anticipated. And I thought, you know what? Screw it. I can't not comment on that. So there will be a commentary tonight after this. You guys saw this, I'm sure. And this was rather amazing. Now, this is one view. I saw another view from a different angle, and it looked on that view that this plane, the Delta flight that struck and turned upside down in Toronto, it looked like it really struck the runway pretty hard. So I'm asking you, take a peek at this and see if it looks like. You can't really tell from this angle, but I want to play it because, I'm kind of going somewhere tonight. I'm always going somewhere tonight.
1, 2, 3.
And then the pilots say,
Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Oh, no. Oh, that's...
Oh, yes.
Tower, you're seeing this airplane just crash into 3.
So I find that amusing insofar as all the Democrats decided that, well, it must be Trump's FAA cuts that made that airplane crash. You morons. This was Canada. You guys don't know where Canada is. And then, oddly enough, Gayle King, the reason I started with Delta is because Gayle King had the Delta Airlines CEO on her show. This guy's name is Ed Bastian. And so she thought she had him caught in a conundrum. And we're going to find out it's Trump.
The Trump administration recently fired many employees of the FAA administration.
Right.
Do those cuts worry you? And do you think that impacts the safety? I know you just said it's the safest way to travel, but after looking at all these mishaps, a lot of people are very nervous. Do these cuts affect you?
Wait.
The cuts do not affect us, Gail. I've been in close communication with the Secretary of Transportation. I understand that the cuts at this time are something that are raising questions, but the reality is there's over 50,000 people that work at the FAA, and the cuts, I understand, were 300 people, and they were in non-critical safety functions. The Trump administration had cuts, I understand, were 300 people, and they were cuts, I understand, were 300 people, and they were in non-critical safety functions. The Trump administration.
Non-critical safety functions. So, I did this Tuesday. I got to do it again. So I take my arrow out of my quiver and Gayle King, right back at you, babe. And then this one, this is great. If you haven't seen it, go to Doge Live Tracker. And you probably can't see it because it's really teeny and winky way up here. But you'll find it on the internet. at Doge, DOGE, hyphen tracker.com. DogeTracker.com. And it's billed as the Doge Live Tracker. So if you want to see how your tax dollars are being saved, hey, go right there. It's kind of fun. I am not going to do Chicago stuff tonight because I have got just absolutely so much material to cover, if for no other reason that it's my material and it's my response, and I want to make sure that I cover it. Let's start here. This is Doge and how Doge be like. Come on. Go.
You do here. Well, look, I already told you. I deal with the goddamn customers so the engineers don't have to.
He said, what do you do here?
I have people skills. I am good at dealing with people. Can't you understand that? What the hell is wrong with you people? Yeah, I mean,
Treasury, your next baby. And then, of course, if you are talking about efficiency, well, here's a guy that is the epitome of efficiency.
As part of the ongoing effort by the federal government to reduce spending and streamline operations, all 3 million federal employees are being replaced by one 16-year-old Chick-fil-A employee.
Thank you.
Named Devin. Devin will be responsible for everything the 3 million federal employees used to accomplish as part of their day-to-day jobs, from delivering mail to all 340 million Americans to cleaning the toilets at Yellowstone National Park, and even advising the president as the new Secretary of State.
Devin, are you excited for your new job?
Yeah, you know, it's going to be a really good way to earn a little extra money for college. It's a real blessing. Praise the Lord.
And you're still working here at Chick-fil-A?
Yeah, just putting in some extra hours after running my 9 to 5. You know, just pretty much running the entire federal government.
Economists claim the move will save the federal government approximately $300 billion in payroll each year, less Devin's wages of $17 an hour. But savings aren't the only benefit, experts say. As a Chick-fil-A worker, Devin is said to be extremely efficient at his job and annoyingly friendly, a stark contrast to what most people think of when they have to interact with a federal employee.
Yeah, I'll get your tax return processed right away, Mrs. Heffingberg. Sorry for the delay. No, we're not short-staffed at all. Yes, it's my pleasure. Hey, sorry about this. I just got to do a quick menu check. Can you put your arms out for me? Hey, have a great day.
Thanks.
My pleasure. Yeah, so I'm just finishing up solving this murder. It was the wife, obviously. Then I'm off to inspect some suspicious eggs at the Department of Agriculture. Then I'm going to answer about 47 million emails for the VA. Thank you for your service, vets. It's my pleasure.
And that's Devin. That's why we need Devin. And I said in the promo for tonight, I said the EU is failing, and then USAID is ruled by the CIA. I saw this next video, and for those of you who are on, it's in Greek. This is literally in Greek. And this, what is her name? Aphrodite Latinopoulou. I think I probably screwed that up terribly. She's in the EU, and she's telling them that in terms of what the EU is now and what it represents, we, meaning the younger folks who are conservative, we are the future. You are not. So for those of you who are listening and not just watching right now, I will try to keep up with her as we play this video, because this is great. This is the future. This better be the future. She says it is. I believe her.
Σοβαρά, κυρίες και κύριοι. Η δεξιά κατέστρεψε τη βιομηχανία. Η δεξιά έκανε είδωλο την Γκρέτα Τουνμπέργκ.
Was it the right that imposed the green energy at the expense of industry, destroying the EU's competitiveness? Or was it the socialist governments that have been ruling the European Union for 50 years? France, Italy, Germany, Spain, and my homeland, Greece, have been devastated by groundless socialist policies. And today, you, the destroyers of Europe, have the audacity to wag your finger at us, claiming that we conservatives are a threat to Europe. I laugh. I truly laugh. As Margaret Thatcher wisely said, the problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money. So abandon these ghost stories about supposed far-right threats and implement liberal economic policies. Lower taxes, increase competitiveness, bring back plastic straws, leave lignite alone, invest in the industry, and above all, face reality. You have failed. Follow what we're telling you before it's too late for everyone. We are the future and you are the past. And she nails it, folks. It's like bada bing, bada boom, left, right, uppercut. And the EU has failed. And the thing that I find absolutely delicious, that's wonderful, is what has occurred in the U.S. with Trump 47. Such a massive difference between 45 and 47, added with a big dollop of humility and mortality, the sense of mortality from last June of 2024. Trump 47 is an entirely new guy, and he has no time to waste. No one has ever seen anyone in my lengthy period of time on the planet. Nobody has seen what Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head. Nobody has seen what he has done in 20 days. By the way, funny you should mention that, BZ. It's 20 days today. Excuse me, 1 month today, January 20th, February 20th. The second month in February, the second month of this year, the 20th day, the year of our Lord, 2025. 1 month. And he has gotten all of this done. It's absolutely wonderful. Now, I'm going to put this up, and as we know, it's a late night show. Sometimes the poo-poo nasties come out of me. I'm going to put this up on the screen because here's a guy, and again, this is the EU. Here is a guy, a German leader who's crying at the Munich Security Conference about the bad words that DJT said about him. And in reviewing this, I said something similar to, fuck these Euro pussies. We're done with your freedom-killing ways. And that's exactly what DJT said to them in a much kinder fashion. We're done with you repressing your citizens, pissing away our hard-earned American taxpayer dollars, and then literally crying. There are tears now. I didn't see snot, so I'm not 100% convinced. But you're crying about an expectation to help fund and protect yourselves. What the hell? Oh, there we go.
After the speech of Vice President Vance on Friday, we have to fear that our common value base is not that common anymore.
Thank God.
I'm very grateful to all those European politicians that spoke out and reaffirmed the values and principles that they are defending. No one did this better than President Zelensky.
Do you see how this all is wrapped together? Every one of these fuckers are corruptors. The only people of remote respect are, I can't think of the guy in Hungary, Orban? I may have gotten my name wrong. And Poland. Poland, I had a couple of contacts with Polish people and Polish cops. When I was at EVOC, a sergeant there, I had a couple of Polish cops come over. And at the time, these poor bastards were driving like zills, Russian zills. They were terrible. So I put them out on the pursuit course. When I was driving, I couldn't let them drive for liability reasons. And they all laughed their asses off like little schoolgirls on our pursuit course. Poland loves the United States of America. And the EU, these guys, that bastard, are getting their asses handed to her, which is why Aphrodite said what she said. And that's why I'm leading with that tonight.
Let me conclude, and this becomes difficult.
Oh, please. Okay, give me a fucking break. I'm taking you off the screen. If you can't even get through a script because you're going to have to pay for your own shit, how do you possibly think that anyone at all is going to respect you? I go back to this video. This video is one of the favorite happy times for me. This inserts me into my happy place when I regale people with this video. This is Trump speaking in Germany, essentially saying that Germany is controlled by Russia. He's at a NATO meeting and he takes basically a 5-pound herring and slaps it in the face of all one of these Euro twats here at this table. It's great.
But Germany is totally controlled by Russia.
Bingo.
Because they were getting from 60 to 70% of their energy from Russia and a new pipeline. And you tell me if that's appropriate, because I think it's not. And I think it's a very bad thing for NATO, and I don't think it should have happened. And I think we have to talk to Germany about it. On top of that, Germany is just paying a little bit over 1%, whereas the United States in actual numbers.
Look at the guy directly across from him. Have you ever seen such a head up, tilted, arrogant bastard in quite some time? He's reading them the Riot Act and telling them the truth. That is to say, it's time to pull your diapers up like big people. And, oh, you don't talk to me in this fashion. By the way, over in the far corner, let's see, that would be to Trump's left, is Mike Pompeo prior to weight loss.
Is paying 4.2% of a much larger GDP. So I think that's inappropriate also. You know,
in other words, you're not paying your freight, NATO.
we're protecting Germany, we're protecting France, we're protecting everybody. And yet we're paying a lot of money to protect. Now, this has been going on for decades. This has been brought up by other presidents, but other presidents never did anything about it because I don't think they understood it or they just didn't want to get involved. But I have to bring it up because I think it's very unfair to our country. It's very unfair to our taxpayers. And I think that these countries have to step it up, not over a 10-year period. They have to step it up immediately.
Oh, hell
Germany is
yeah.
a rich country. They talk about they're going to increase it a tiny bit by 2030. Well, they could increase it immediately tomorrow and have no problem. I don't think it's fair to the United States. So we're going to have to do something because we're not going to put up with it. We can't.
Nobody's talked to them ever, as in looking directly at this guy over here, the Mr. Elitist. Nobody's ever spoken to him and told him directly to his face, you're going to have to cough up cash, Buccarino, and do it now.
Can't put up with it, and it's inappropriate. So we have to talk. Now, if you look at it, Germany is a captive of Russia because they supply. They got rid of their
Yes,
coal plants, they got rid of their
Gazprom.
nuclear. They're getting so much of the oil and gas from Russia. I think it's something that NATO has to look at. I think it's very inappropriate. You and I agree that it's inappropriate. I don't know what you can do about it now, but it certainly doesn't seem to make sense that they pay billions of dollars to Russia, and now we have to defend them against Russia.
You know, NATO is the alliance of 29 nations, and there are sometimes differences and different views and also some disagreements. And gas pipeline from Russia to Germany is one issue where allies disagree. But the strength of NATO is that despite these differences, we have always been able to unite around our core task to protect and defend each other because we understand that we are stronger together than apart. I think that 2 world wars.
Okay, I got to stop right here. I'm sorry. Did you see Pompeo kind of look off into the distance, thinking that, okay, I'm here, I'm listening to this, but even I'm getting a little bit embarrassed, and he's shoving the pike through the heart at everybody at this table. He's enjoying it. This is a wonderful thing. Pompeo was digging it.
The Cold War thought was that we are stronger together than apart.
But how can you be together when a country is getting its energy from the person you want protection against or from the group that you want protection?
Because you understand that when we stand together, also when dealing with Russia, we are stronger. I think what we have seen is that...
No, you're just making...
See, Cheetah's exactly right. He says, hell yeah. Trump sees this clearly. Russia has held the EU over a barrel as energy hostages. Absolutely damn correct. Where's my bell? Thanks, Cheetah. And thanks to everybody in chat. Mission Ready Men, Lost Wanderer, Jeremy Hansen, Cheetah, Ricky Robinson, Squatch Zone. Thanks to everybody for being here tonight. Let's continue.
Russia richer. Well, you're not dealing with Russia, you're making Russia richer.
I think that even during the Cold
You're
War,
making
NATO
Russia
was
richer.
trading with Russia, then there have been disagreements about what kind of trade arrangements we should go
I think
into.
trade is wonderful. I think energy is a whole different story. I think energy is a much different story than normal trade. And you have a country like Poland that won't accept the gas.
Like Poland that won't accept the gas. Like chat says in here, the Polish people are great people. I've met a bunch of them. I used to, when I was doing this kind of thing and I had my house back in Sacramento, I would invite, I can't think of the organization, but it's basically we send your cops to us, you send your cops over here. I never went to the EU, but I sponsored a bunch of Polish cops, and I sponsored a bunch of German cops because I happen to speak German. I didn't speak Polish. Thank God these guys spoke English. But all of these folks were a ton of fun, especially the Polish dudes. Loved the hell out of America. Glorious. Absolutely glorious. And then what's America? Well, all of these guys are all about censorship. So don't think that it doesn't happen here. Ayanna Pressley saying what used to be the quiet part out loud. And now the thought is just, fuck it. We're saying the quiet part out loud for now until forever.
Look, let me tell you something. I'll take a bit of umbrage here. I'll speak on behalf of my colleagues. I think I can say,
I like the word, though, umbrage. I use that quite a bit. Good volatility.
we are all willing to work with anyone who's serious about doing the work of censoring the American people.
Stop right there. That's all you need to know about these shit sticks. Censoring the American people. That's why the Democrats hate 47 and the EU hates 47, because you can't take some words. You can't take words. If you can't take language, how can we possibly begin to communicate with others? Especially when you guys in Europe are having this kind of crap going on and nobody's talking about it. Did you hear about this? Panic in Sweden. Sweden, as 31 bombings, 31 rock the country with one city. This is a quote from the Express in the UK. I frequently go to the UK. Well, shoot, I used to have a subscription to The Economist. I go to the Daily Mail. Frequently, you'll discover that UK journalism, as far as that goes, is a lot more in-depth and more readily available than things on the American media maggot side. For example, in Daily Mail, although it, oh, God. Okay, I'm going to get this over with right now because I got to take a break in just a moment or so. I hate going to the Daily Mail because the Daily Mail is absolutely festooned with ads. Oh my God, it's almost as bad as, how many times have you guys gone to allegedly a conservative site and maybe you saw on social media, and you saw an article that looks interesting because the headline looks interesting. And then you go there, and it's nothing but a bunch of toe fungus ads and paywalls and all that crap that makes you absolutely sick. Well, I'm BZ. You're in the saloon. I'll be right back after this, and we will continue, and then we'll change the topic and the pitch of the propeller. It's exactly 8:30 Pacific, 10:30 Central, and oh my gosh, 11:30 Eastern already, and it's 1749.723, paragraph 4, box 5, sub-Groot cluster 2 in Bolivia. But I could never understand Bolivian time. Can anybody? I don't think I can.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Hey fellas, are you mission ready? Coming in November to SHR Media. By way of Big E Jackson, you need to check out Mission Ready Men. It's a show that equips you to navigate our society's challenges from a biblical perspective with courage and conviction. Tune into Mission Ready Men as we examine our culture through the prism of biblical truths, teachings, and how to apply them in our daily lives. Prepare to step up, stand out, and step into your role as a man, as ordained by God. That's Mission Ready Men, hosted by Earl Jackson, coming this November on the SHR Media Network. And get mission ready.
Okay, stop right there. It's not in the ad, but I want to make sure that you know about Big E's show. Now, the days and the times aren't there, but Mission Ready Men with Big E Earl Jackson is on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the days that I'm on, except he's earlier. He's on at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and noon Eastern. So that's Mission Ready Men, just like this right here. Earl Jackson, he's on Tuesday and Thursday in the morning, 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 Central, and noon on Eastern. So with that, let's continue.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. I'm back. Thanks for being here tonight. Got a lot of people in the chat room. If you want to be in the chat room as well, you can. Con su permissione. I think that's Italian. I'm not exactly sure. If it's Italian, it's bad Italian. Anyway, thanks for being here. The first half hour is done, gone in the can. And by the way, maybe you did exactly that during the break. Maybe you hit the can. With luck, you grabbed an adult beverage and came back. Before I was so rudely interrupted by myself, I was talking about this. Europe has its own problems. 31 bombings occurred just in January. And they say the country is as bad, as dangerous as Baghdad. Now, you don't hear this stuff. And you're not going to hear it from the American media maggots because primarily the American media maggots don't care what happens in the EU unless it's a positive thing. So a negative thing like this, oh, the EU is wonderful. They're multicultural. You're not going to hear about any of that. Explosions in Stockholm have become so frequent, the city's estate agents are listing no bombings in their pro columns when advertising properties for neighborhoods buyers might not be familiar with. Hey, June, Sven. I can't do good Swedish. I really can't, unless I'm a Muppet. Look, the plus on the plus side here in the column is they have no bombings near or around this house. And the other thing you're not really going to hear is when stuff like happens like this. Now, New Zealand is just about as bad as Australia in terms of being leftist. I can't think of the former New Zealand premier or president who was there during COVID, but she was an absolute dictator with regard to COVID. And the deaths, like Australia, the deaths were almost negligible in New Zealand, and yet they clamped down, put the hobnail boots on everybody. But this is why this is an absolutely delicious story. Okay, so Brian Tamaki's Destiny Church protest at a Pride festival, and Chloe Swarbrick calls for country support. So let me put this in focus for you. So they had a Pride festival in New Zealand, and there's a group called Destiny Church and Man Up and Legacy Statehood, which are purporting, they say in the article, purporting to help combat family violence, to storm, all about words, storming a community center. Well, what they don't tell you is, and I don't have an article here. There you go. Or I don't have a photo. But these are, now, who do you go with in this in terms of New Zealand? The folks that came out with this are the indigenous people, the Maori, who have hakas. If you ever seen the line of the Maori, and I can't do this nearly as well, but the facial things are like blah. They're the indigenous people. They don't care for this kind. Just see, it was a visual. They don't care for this kind of stuff. So if you're New Zealand, who do you go with? because there are always a hierarchy in leftist enclaves. So who do you hold dear first? The indigenous people who are not really cool with this, or are you going to go with the LGBT, etc. folks there? It's a terrible conundrum, and I'd really hate to have to be somebody, and because you're going to have to prioritize if you haven't already. You're going to have to prioritize one or the other. Now, I told you in terms of USA, I did an entire show on USAID probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. And that's all it was. I started on my ex Twitter feed, and I just went down, boom, bada boom, bada boom. I had an intro to the thing. We've all seen it. We've all been there. But in the process of going through the internet, I recently came across a video, and I'm going to have to actually hype my show right now. I seldom do this, but all of my show notes, which means the links to which I refer, are in the end when I post the show on Rumble, the SHR Media Group channel on Rumble, which is where this is live streaming right now. Or I post it to bloviatingzeppelin.net. bloviatingzeppelin.net. So you can find either all the show notes and the links at Rumble or in my blog, bloviatingzeppelin.net. And the video, which is 2 hours of this guy, Mike Benz, and Tucker Carlson chatting back and forth about USAID. And it was a revelation. And I sucked up all this content until I finally realized, am I understanding? Now, Mike Benz is a smart, sharp dude. Very intelligent. And I'm always going to be referring to him because he has access to information that very few people do. If I'm not mistaken, I think he was in intelligence, and I believe he was also in the government. I'm not sure at what GS level, but a smart, smart guy. Oh, wait, Cheetah, this is terrible. You've been contacted about suing BZ and SHR and inflicting emotional distress about a class of chinchillas. Cheetah, see me at the end of the show, please. So I listened to the whole thing, and I'm going to distill it down for you. But if you want to see, in case you say, oh, BZ, you're full of crap. No, this is how I'm interpreting this stuff. So what if I told you a tale that was so bizarre, so twisted, so labyrinthine, so convoluted, so absolutely maze-like, so layered, so Machiavellian, winding, sinuous, rambling, devious, sly, absolutely unscrupulous, remorseless, unethical, scheming, immoral, unconscionable. I ran out of adjectives, and so abysmally lost. These people are lost. That even the perpetrators fail to understand or even remember all the tentacles that are involved in this thing, all the vast permutations, and how it's all supposed to fit together with the rest of the cogs. So what if I told you a tale about USAID, which is even more than what I told you last time, whose goal isn't aid at all, though by giving it an historical brief benefit of the doubt, let's suggest that maybe it was in the beginning originally. So when begun by then President JFK in 1961 by executive order, it was known as the Foreign Assistance Act. In that 1961, it was changed to, and people used to quote it by this name, not USAID. We'll get to that part, but they used to refer to it as USAID. That was a convenient but purposely intentional misleading naming, a little twist of nomenclature. Back then, like I say, it was USAID because USAID actually stands for the United States Agency for International Development. Except, like it's all about the language. We need to get better at the language. Leftists, Democrats, and globalists have snagged the language. We have to wrest it back. Like gender in affirming care has little to do with actual care, but instead with the chemical, mental, and physical butchery of children. USAID has little to do with actually aid. So unless you're talking about aid to the CIA so that the CIA can affect regime change and mostly chaos in countries around the world, including ours. Also, don't think it's not about regime change in just other countries. It's about making sure now that we're screwing over good American taxpayers. Not necessarily and primarily not to the benefit of the United States, mostly deleterious to other nations and certainly deleterious to us because we're footing the damn bill. And like I said, I told you how absolutely nefarious and scheming the entire USAID story is quite a number of times. But I started to go back into this and did some more investigation, found this video fairly easy to accomplish on the internet if you're diligent. I mean, for God's sake, if I can do it, anybody can do it. I came to an important conclusion late last week. Too many people are thinking one-dimensionally, like I did. So you need to back up and see the big umbrella global picture. In order to understand leftists, you have to see how they function. Like I've said for a long time, I speak leftist because I've been around them for so long, so I'll translate. Until I went deeper, I read a whole lot more information. I watched just a ton of videos. I finally realized, holy shit, this isn't just huge. It's absolutely global. So I posit that literally there probably isn't anybody on the planet who isn't affected by this in one way or another. Stop. Just USAID. So Republicans and conservatives are thinking and addressing the obvious. Oh my God, the multiple billions, likely trillions of hard-earned American taxpayer dollars spent and wasted on such off-the-wall and ridiculous events and items and programs that absolutely beggar description via USAID. You've already heard about a ton of those things. And people are rightly thinking, oh my God, what happens when we audit the Pentagon? What happens when we audit every cabinet position? What happens when we audit Social Security, entitlements, each and every federal department and agency? So stop. Here's what I discovered. There are 438 of them. Okay, are you aware of that? And they're unceasing. It's like when they're open, they don't stop. They never go away. They're called everything from departments to commissions, boards, agencies, administrations, authorities, sub-agencies, bureaus, and government corporations. What? What's a government corporation? Did you even know we have those? What is it? They are, by definition, an agency formed by the federal government to administer a quasi-business enterprise. One example is the Postal Service. Winning. Another one is Amtrak. Not winning. In the country where I used to work, the county where I used to work, those are specifically called enterprises, where portions of at least the county, Sacramento County, are there to make some cash. So the U.S. Post Office is there to do that, loses, and Amtrak is there to do that, not doing a real good job of those. So what happens when we dig into those? What else are we going to find? And how much is missing? Do we even know what's missing? Do we know it's missing? Anything is missing? How do we ever know? How would we find out? It's like I've said before, you go in and you tell Zuckerberg at Meta, okay, stop doing this and this and this and this. And Zuckerberg says and swears and absolutely says, yeah, I've done that. Okay, prove it. Will you ever get into Zucky's servers? And the answer is no, you never will. So what happens when we find out and we start digging into all that stuff? How would we know? Zucky's not going to tell you. And all the other people, even though some of the computer systems are still running on COBOL. COBOL was designed by Admiral Grace Hopper in the 1950s. And I've said for a long time, because digital is eventually going to kill us all. I said, if somebody had a time machine, somebody's going to demand that we go back to the 50s and the 60s and kill Admiral Grace Hopper for even inventing COBOL, because that's the precursor to the digital world, the ones and zeros, open and shut. Where are the people that are even going to ask these questions, that are even going to pose these questions, much less the answers? Because these days, to even ask a question has turned out to be nothing more or less than career suicide, no matter where you are, at work, in government, and certainly via the American media maggots in the U.S. and all around the world. Were you aware that, for example, USAID funds 90% of the media in Ukraine? How many U.S. media maggots organizations are funded by USAID? And what about that we've discovered so far? What about the unions, social media censorship, pandemic research, gain of function research, U.S. aid to terrorism, to the drug trade, to human trafficking, a horde of private and independent organizations, which it turns out aren't, secretly organized riots around the world, USAID secretly organized and funded, USAID, riots around the world. USAID was involved in Russiagate. USAID was involved in the global narcotics empire, may still be in the BLM riots, and of course, all the George Soros prosecutors who don't. And the rest that we don't even know about, that has not even been uncovered. Oh, there is so more. It's so thick and it's so deep. But the dealio is, if nobody ever questioned anything and just said, oh, it's okay, I accept it. Everybody assumed that, oh, that guy over there, that person over there, that gal, they're going to take care of it, which they never did. So if you were a politician, what you ended up doing was flapping your lips. And then you moved on to something much more important, like removing people's rights and liberties and making better insider stock trades and setting up PACs and burying accounts for your next congressional or senatorial run. Because if you're a politician in the United States, that's what you do. Because a $44 billion a year USAID budget was pocket change compared to the rest of the waste, fraud, and corruption that we haven't even come close to identifying or exposing or even understanding. So I watched the video. It was with Mike Benz, B-E-N-Z. I follow him. Great guy, smart as a whip. And he's talking to Tucker Carlson. And this kind of got my brain rolling. And what initially occurred with him is he discovered linkage between domestic censorship, then EU censorship, then global censorship, then energy, then the military, then chambers of commerce. It went down to chambers of commerce, then humanitarian aid organizations, then a ton of NGOs, State Department grantees, National Science Foundation grantees, and that led him from one agency to another, and it snowballed fast, going down a hill. But he finally discovered, it's so large, it's so big, it's so rampant, so packed full of bedlam and excess that people are still in the mindset today of, oh no, BZ, that can't be true mindset kind of thing. But here's where Mike Benz, I'm listening to this video, and he's setting it up, and he's making these assertions, which he has proven to be true. Because if you go back to some of my other shows, or if you go back to, say, Rick Robinson or Earl Jackson or Jersey Joe or Edge of Liberty, Sean Lewis, and we've all been talking about this stuff. Well, Mike Benz, we know some of what's been going on. So Mike Benz makes this weird assertion. He wants an American empire. Okay, well, or maybe a lot of other people do, because he's asserting that it benefits America and it benefits the rest of the world. If it benefits America, it benefits the rest of the world. Now you can make up your own mind about whether we are an American empire, yes or no. But he admits at this point, the patient, us, the United States, needs open heart surgery. Then he says, don't kill the patient, though. That is to say, the United States of America. So about right now, you're probably saying, BZ, oh, come on. What are you trying to say? What are you implying? What do you think Mike Benz is saying? What I'm suggesting is something that we have yet to really expand our brains around. The intimation is on the table that, well, maybe we're not looking at this like Spock playing 3D chess. Maybe it is for our benefit. And we're limiting ourselves by thinking, oh, it's only budgetary. It's a fiscal error. It's a fiscal issue. Think global. Look up. Think about the bigger umbrella of it all. Maybe we really, this is his suggestion, maybe we really should be continuing USAID, because what if it's really beneficial for the United States of America? Okay, about this time, I know, blown brain, right? What idiot would ever make those kinds of allegations? What series of idiots would ever say something like that? What series of idiots who are dealing with influence and funding and briefcases full of cash, duffel bags full of cash, even Obama-sized pallets of cash flown to Iran in the dead of night on a C-17 bound for Tehran? Because that's never happened before. As Mike Benz said, in the zeal to carry out radical reforms, if you take out the wrong organs or you don't know how they work, the patient can die on the table, U.S. being the patient. Okay, and this is where I literally am going. I'm trying to process that. How do you get somebody who thinks like that? The assertion is, get ready. You're sitting down, I hope. Maybe this isn't so bad if the ends somehow manage to justify the means, or kind of to twist it around even a little bit more, because I like to make silly ass BZ comparisons. Make it a little bit more literal. Maybe a drag queen theater presentation with a fuck ton of DEI lectures, cornholing comic books, wrapped around some ignored human trafficking, is what it takes to get the new cadre of new influencers, young influencers in a given country, to give up communism or give up socialism or whoever the hell the dictator du jour happens to be in any given country. And maybe, this is all the benefit is benefiting the average American taxpayer. It's for the children. Okay, just about this time, like I said, brain blown. I had to take a breath, in through the nose, out through the mouth. I had to do it a couple of times. Repeat. I'm not kidding. I actually had to do that when I was watching this video. Like, what are you? What? Who? What? Some people are attempting to make this argument. So apparently I discovered he's not the only one that's attempting to, in my brain, I don't know how to interpret it otherwise. He's trying to justify this. The future of the United States is at stake. So in, I guess, a simile, here at home and abroad, the shit is only just the USAID shit. is only just beginning to hit the fan blades. Just not the main body of shit, and it's far from all the fan blades, okay? Today is February 20th. Just 30 days into Trump 47's presidency, his term. It isn't just the tip of the iceberg. In truth, it's like the single blade of grass that floated on to the top of the tip of the iceberg. That's what we know right now. So, even so, having said that, the revelation is so large, so gross, so unfathomable, certainly at first, and so naked and so bold that many are shocked, I tell you, that somebody somewhere may actually potentially be held to answer. Mike Benz is making this claim. Somebody might be held to answer in some form for what's been building for 50 years, 100 years, or more, definitely since JFK in 1961. Okay, so the cat is out of the bag, but not the whole cat, maybe the tip of the tail. And can you really say, just seeing that little part, that it's a cat or a tail or a paw at this point? No, you can't. Nobody saw this coming. Not our 17 intelligence areas and our agencies, because I can guarantee you they don't talk to each other. I used to work for the feds. They don't talk to each other. Now, when we used to send, back in the old days, in Airtel, we had a place that was locked in a cage like a safe where you'd go in, and this was all equipment that was provided to us by the NSA. So it was all encrypted. Our 17 intelligence agencies didn't see it. The Five Eyes didn't see it. Nobody who really thought they were an insider with their finger on the pulse of all things intel, they didn't see it. Sketchy, suspicious, in the know. None of those people saw the emergence of Doge and Trump 47 and deep dives. But even then, you have to understand, it's not so simple. It's not this simple. Because when we thought, oh no, this is horrible, such waste, fraud, and corruption and deception, some are trying to say something similar to, yeah, but. So when certain elements on both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans, are screaming, democracy, democracy, democracy in the nation of Ukraine, is the hidden secret that they're really screaming through the CIA. They're talking about, oh, rare earth metals buried in the Ukraine ground. So what is it? What are people, politicians, so-called leaders, those in the House and the Senate, heads of agencies, all that, what are they really saying? That all of this is worthwhile simply for advancing U.S. strategic interests. And it's in your, meaning yours and my best interest, not to look. You don't realize or recognize, because we're just doing it for all Americans. We're not just doing it for the Americans. We're doing it for the children. And apparently somebody somewhere thinks, oh, well, that justifies it all. Because I'm watching this unfold in front of me. And I expected a lot more pushback from Tucker Carlson. I was a little disappointed. And so then the average American becomes gobsmacked, for the first time pondering, so you're saying it's not aid, but it says U.S. aid in the name. It used to say it on the building. Well, they took that down. And everybody continues to forget that it's actually the United States Agency for International Development. Aid isn't even a component. And that's in a way, that's the brilliance of years of false marketing It's been so corrupted for purposes of everything but direct aid that just the name itself, that's where you start. That's a big, huge lie just right there. Like the Kittens for Justice Act, which isn't about kittens or about justice, but a way to import more lions and poisonous snakes into U.S. zoos. So you get my drift. USAID, USAID must be a charity, right? It's going to starve. This is what Democrats are saying. What's going to starving brown babies, isn't it? How many infants and children are going to have to be killed by the spigot going righty-tighty? Thousands? Hundreds of thousands? Umbrage, Ayanna Pressley? Ask the Democrats, leftists, and the globalists. But even, this is the deal, even they are aware of the full scope of this story. Mostly they don't want to be, because they too profit from USAID and all the corrupt linked alliances. The problem with the bulk of the Mike Benz argument is that assumptions are made regarding the U.S. being unable to do for itself. So I guess we can't do this. We can't do these things. In other words, we need more oil, so we'll have to get involved with all of the insanity of the Muslims in the Middle East. We need more rare earth materials and metals, so we're going to have to bribe another country for theirs, because Lord knows we can't dig in our own soil, but we sure shit don't mind when other countries despoil theirs. That's cool. We need cheaper cotton baby jumpers for the U.S. market, so we'll have to shiv Vietnam for that. And we need more computer chips, so we'll just go to war with China. But hey, here's something of a little bit of a unique thought. What if we tapped more of our own oil? What if we harnessed more of our own natural gas? It's sitting right there. What if we brought back heavy manufacturing? Oh, I have missed a break, but I'm going to continue. I should say, by the way, if you don't know where you are, you're listening to the SHR Media Network, and you're watching the SHR Media Network. So, go to war with China over Taiwan because we need computer chips, and we've already sworn we're going to go to war with China. But hey, here's something of a weird, unique thought. What if we tapped more of our own oil? What if we harnessed more of our natural gas? What if we brought back heavy manufacturing? What if we helped support our own clothing manufacturers, brought back companies from thousands of miles away, mitigating all those shipping and transport costs, started to ramp up our own computer chips? We were huge in that for a time. What if we started making our own medicines? That became no more obvious that we need to do that during Wuhan 19. Made our own medicines, made our own antibiotics, which mostly we don't, our own medical supplies. Wuhan 19, it should have taught us that. What have we learned? What did we learn? Did we learn a bunch? Are we making these things now in the United States? And the answer is no, we're not. What if we were actually sorry? Excuse me. What if we are sorry, but what if we were serious about becoming more independent, more sovereign, less reliant on other countries when we have people here who want to work, people who need jobs, and we were serious about supporting our own industries and our own employees? So, is Mike Benz making a fallacious argument when the U.S. possesses the capability to solve a huge host of its problems that USAID is allegedly trying to address? Or is the truth that leftists, Democrats, and globalists themselves who shoved us into the jackpot of relying on others because of environmental concerns or climate change, or because they discovered that the grift for all of that was long and deep and wide and really damn lucrative and highly politically beneficial for them. And a huge benefit was more power and control, with the concomitant diminishment of Republican and conservative power, because that's the goal. Less power for that evil United States of America, and more money and influence to great leaders like George Soros and Emmanuel Macron. I'm not even going to say his name. I can't pronounce it, like February. Klaus Schwab, Keir Starmer, who you may not know is the UK Prime Minister, because they come and go like underwear. Olaf Scholz, Germany. Justin Trudeau, all massive leftists. We're crying tears because Trump spoke truth to us. Then I'm watching the video, and you can see it later in the show notes, in the links. He says, Mike Benz, that he feels this strange kind of sympathy for the devil. That, okay, we've done terrible things. We shouldn't do them again. And yeah, okay, they've gone rogue. And there's no oversight. And horrors beyond your wildest imagination. I'm using his words. At the same time, there's still a vestige of a function there at USAID that our foreign policy planners knew was there, Mike Benz says, and the interest is to reconstruct the patient. Okay, let me read that again. To reconstruct the patient. USAID, comma, what the fuck? So like Putin in the USSR, some of these people want to get the USAID band back together, even before all the members are known, and even though the drugs are killing their music. Okay, I find this absolutely abominable. Even back in 2014, the leftist organization Democracy Now! Had an article that talked about the CIA involvement in USAID. They found the USAID involvement to be terrible, that they were fueling anti-Castro protests. Look at this up here. If you listen to NPR or public TV, Democracy Now! Fist in the air, Democracy Now! We have no idea that it's actually a fucking republic. Is USAID the new CIA agency secretly built Cuban Twitter program to fuel anti-Castro protests? So what the hell happened between leftists who were mostly off their rocker, but not completely off their rocker like today? Only one factor, DJT, Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head. Or let's be honest, okay, should I relinquish and consider that, you know what, maybe this guy Mike Benz is brilliant and I just don't fucking see it. Now, I admit I'm not a foreign policy wonk. But I still find this absolutely abominable. Like, even back in 2014, what happened between now and then? But you always have to ask, cui bono? Who is this serving? Is this actually serving the American public? Is it a good usage of hard-earned American taxpayer dollars, mine, yours, ours? Is the truth that we need a larger vision regarding the role of U.S. foreign policy, or because I'm a contemptible idiot moron, I just don't grok the larger concept that those far better educated than me seem to understand? Or, as I like to relate in terms of something familiar, If you were a leftist, though, shouldn't you be asking? Why wouldn't you ask if the cure is killing your patient? Well, first, frankly, honestly, I don't think any of them give one pustule-ridden, bubbling, fermented shit. It's the philosophy that matters. It's philosophy über alles. But it's even more labyrinthine and tangled than that. Because no one knows where the money went. No one can completely account for it. No one individual or group can state with authority that they know where the money earmarked for them went. No one logged a thing. No one documented a thing purposely. No one knows any actual amounts. Even the Democrats, leftists, and globalists, they don't know where it went. They may tell you, but it's a massive lie. Even if they wanted to say it, but they don't. And that's immaterial. That's all intentional. All they know is they want more. Always more. The spice must flow. And it's caused everyone to eyeball the shit out of Arrakis. But I can tell you where it went. It went into the hands of foreign politicians, dictators, and away from those in, let's go back to the original kind of purple-skied utopian planet, needy little unwashed ruffians to whom it was 1961 JFK aimed originally. So here's an easy example. I saw this today. I was watching OAN, I think. I'm not sure. And this example ripped from today's screaming headlines as Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man, bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, recently said, a modestly successful comedian, Vladimir Zelensky, talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go into a war that couldn't be won. And Zelensky admits that half of the money that was sent to him is missing. Half of the money that was sent to Zelensky is missing. Yeah, no big deal. Come on. Democrats, move on. Nothing to see here. $175 billion. That's it. Plus or minus a few billion. White trifle. Nobody's going to remember this except me. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, there was a Illinois Democrat by the name of Everett Dirksen. He was a senator, and a quote is attributed to him. And he said, you know what? $1 billion here, $1 billion there, and pretty soon you're talking real money. So why would this be? How could it be? Why didn't anyone care? Certainly not in the Biden regime, whose job it was to care, to safeguard our money. It was his job to be responsible, to be accountable. He said he was transparent. All of that. To the American taxpayer, he was none of it. So, how could people do this? That's the easiest reply. I don't know all the details, but I can tell you this. It's because it's not their money. How could Zelensky lose roughly $175 billion plus or minus? Easy. It's not his money. How could the Pentagon literally not account for 63% of nearly $4 trillion in assets? Easy. It's not their money. So because there is little, if any, accountability, people and entities are not held responsible. And here's the focus. Nothing is expected, nor has it ever been expected from any of the recipients. Ever. United States largesse has historically been unidirectional. From us to them, and there's a shit ton of thems. The tables finally have turned, though, because we know there's a new sheriff in town. And there's a new word in town that I love. And that word is called transactional. And gone, and rightly so, are the days where the U.S. gives and receives absolutely nothing in return. Because, like all the little pussies in Europe whine, well, that's the way you've always done it in the past. We don't understand why you're doing it now. Transactional. How did the United States become essentially the world's bitch? Because we didn't stand up for ourselves. That's why. So countries and groups and entities all said, they looked at each other and said, look, there's a vein. Let's tap it. They don't care. Why should we? Which is an excellent point. But think, had Joe Biden won, we wouldn't know any of this. Had Kamala Harris won, we wouldn't know any of this. And as Barack Hussein Obama said, quite properly, elections have consequences. Oh, do they? So, just like you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, we're discovering in reality it wasn't toothpaste, it was opossum shit. But think, back to the money. Because when people say it isn't about the money, it's not about the money. It's about the money, 110%. Mike Benz says, and again, I don't have to make this stuff up. I'm not making this stuff up for the show. I'm not that smart. I'm not that glib. I'm not that competent. Mike Benz says, if you're going to do the dirty deeds and you believe they're necessary for statecraft, there at least has to be an obligation to be honest about them. Relying on the humanitarian predicate allows voters to be deceived and for them to feel totally hoodwinked when they find out, oh, well, you know, you're paying for the unions and the media companies. Like I said, there's no discounting that Mike Benz is a really smart guy. I think it's at Mike, the underline underscore thing, Benz, B-E-N-Z. I've reposted any number of things from him, mostly through all the USAID shows that I did. I'll do it again. I probably got some lined up in here that I probably won't. Well, you know, I sure as shit won't get to them tonight. But none of this is sustainable in any fashion for any reason ever again. We are tearing our country apart for other countries who primarily couldn't care less. That toothpaste will never see the tube again. It can't. It physically cannot. So none of this is sane. This is sociopathy writ large. The free shit has to end for everyone, everywhere. If for no other reason than we're not even close to the bottom. We can't even see the green glow stick that we dropped down into the chasm. See it. We didn't even hear it hit. The United States has not found out yet. They haven't figured out that when you hit your head with a hammer, it feels better when you stop. Hello, the first rule of holes. That's some scary shit. So we can either provide free fill in the blank to everybody, or we can teach people to get off your ass and fish. Do for yourselves. There's a reason that wildlife folks tell us, hey, don't feed the bears in the woods. It teaches them to be dependent. It makes them fat. They get lazy. Then they get mean when the largesse stops. People are no different. Oh, BC, how mean. You're comparing people to animals. Boo fucking who. Get over it. You know exactly what I'm talking about, and you know what I mean. And in many ways, I kind of like animals better. That's a story for another day. So the bottom line, I try to bottom line things. 19 comments, and I haven't even gotten to them. USAID has got to die. USAID has got to die. It must die. It must die a crashing, bitter, bloody death. Because people will fight to the death for it. The mindset of we're here to save the world has to die. The policy of, did you guys even think about this? What I said Mike Pence was talking about? The policy of, as he indicated, we need to be more transparent when we're nation building or regime changing. That's got to die, because if you're doing that transparently in the open, what's the point? How stupid are you? The logical extension is, how stupid do you think we are? And the philosophy of the U.S. continually giving and everybody else taking, that has to die. Not just moribund, not in a dying state. It's got to die. It's unhinged. It's stupid. Like Margaret Thatcher said, and I repeat again, pretty soon you run out of other people's money. Particularly in light of the fact we don't even know the extent of the damage that's occurring, much less tomorrow, day after, anything like that. A few things we do know, though. The USAID issue is going to get a lot worse. We're going to find waste, fraud, and corruption in every governmental department and agency, all 450 plus of them, every fucking one. We haven't even really begun to touch those. This hit is going to be in the trillions of dollars. What's our debt right now, BZ? Oh, that's right. $37 trillion. That's for every man, woman, and child in the United States right now. I think that averages out to be about $350,000. Speechless. The hit is going to be in trillions of dollars, not billions. Billions is chump change right now. And I emphasize, we can and we should not continue to be the world's bitch. And the American taxpayer can no longer afford to fund the entire planet. And now you know why those people and groups screaming the loudest are in fact the largest pigs and benefactors from entire countries, blocks of nations like the EU, down to the federal government, local governments, and probably lots of your friends and acquaintances. So this absolutely has to stop. It can't just be, I don't know, rerouted or reworked. It has to stop.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to River of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle a tough topic with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch River of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being, and in the good that comes from exercising these rights well. The founders of our great nation chose independence As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And I'm back. I'm BZ. It is, well, it's 9:31 Pacific, which means it's 11:31 Central and 12:31 Eastern. And Bolivian time is really screwed up, so I'm not going to even go there. I'm looking at this thing over here, 31 comments, and I apologize for not even getting to them. Subscribe if you would to the channel. I kind of went off a little bit, but I get to do that every now and then because it's my show after all. The Taliban is being funded by the CIA. Now that you know about USAID, I wonder, BZ, who's funding that CIA? This is Sarah Adams. And she happens to be on the Sean Ryan show. You may or may not have heard this, but see, I got to make the linkage. I must do it. Or I must go back and make sure that the volume is on. Sean, would you please repeat what you said?
Scares the shit out of me.
We fund the Taliban's political office in Qatar. That's not the 87 million. There's at least 10 million that we just pay their operating expenses a month. Completely separate. Yeah, we've been doing that since 2013. So this is not a new thing we've been funding the Taliban, right? We were funding them while they're killing our soldiers.
I just don't. Where's it hung up in the
How do you do that?
Have you heard any?
Well, I think
who's holding it up?
Well, I don't know if someone's holding it up. Basically, a senator, or hopefully a grouping of them, are supposed to pick it up, and then they shepherd it through the process, like they sponsor it. I don't think we've seen anyone pick it up to sponsor it. This money goes to Afghans returning from Pakistan to be resettled in Nangarhar. What he really does with the $5 million is he gives it to basically another one of his family members, Abdulaziz Haqqani, and he brings it and drops it off at Al-Qaeda training camps. And that's our humanitarian dollars. And so they're basically lying and saying it's going to refugees. And I guess it is. It's going to foreign fighters from foreign countries. There's Libyans in these camps. But it just goes and gets delivered directly to terrorist camps.
Humanitarian aid. Like I said, forewarned is forearmed. I mean, listen. Knowing that that's what we have to fight ourselves. We're fighting ourselves. Our soldiers are getting killed with our money. Folks, it's out in the open. It's out in the open. How can you not demand some kind of change? I shouldn't say this. There's an asteroid coming. And people are saying I think by in the next 10 years sometime, it has a 1 in 48 chance of striking the planet. And I'm thinking, is it time to start over? I couldn't listen to that. And not think, what are we doing? we're fighting ourselves. That really made me choke up. You want to talk about war profiteers? Here's Matt Gaetz.
I think that the reason we are as involved in Ukraine as we are is because Afghanistan wound down. And if we still had Afghanistan to launder money through, there probably wouldn't be the need for this type of excessive involvement in Ukraine. But I think we can look at Afghanistan and we can look at what's going on here and say what a lot of these defense contractors are pushing toward is how to have an extended kind of low yield war. Like if there's a way to stretch this thing out, turn it into a 20, 30 year kind of thing where there's a whole lot of money moving around and unaccountable pots and a lot of weapons getting bought. And then, oh man, the stockpiles, well, we got to spend more money to reload those.
So it's not all bad. It's not all terrible. You know, you'd think after a while that I would be used to this. I would understand this. I didn't even get to the password tonight. Holy crap. I didn't know this until somebody told me. But there are some good things that occurred today. This. Glorious. Absolutely glorious. This I found amusing. God, there's so much material. It's like every day. Where do you start? 11 obscure things that outnumber CNN's primetime viewership. Competitive Rubik Cube solvers registered with the World Cube Association. Now, this is 11 obscure things that outnumber CNN's primetime viewership. Professional psychics working in America. People with heterochromia in the United States. Participants in a 1988 conga line in Miami. Once critically endangered wild bighorn sheep living in North America. Attendees of a women's volleyball match in Nebraska last year. Registered bicycle rickshaws in New Delhi. Tennis balls thrown out per day in the U.S. Annual breast reduction patients in America. Female professional forklift operators and subscribers to a YouTube channel called Justin Y, which has never uploaded a single video. I needed to laugh because if you didn't laugh, you'd cry. Speaking of crying, wake up, America. Wake up. Let me make sure that I've got the sound on for this. Senator Jeff Merkley. He flies a lot. He has some advice.
Here, and I'm here at Reagan National Airport, and I just went through the security checkpoint, and they have a new system to try to make sure that you do not use your driver's license or document instead of using facial recognition. They tell you to put your driver's license into the scanning machine, and then after you put it in and they tell you to step in front of it to get a photo, they proceed to say, well, you can't do that. You have to have your photo taken. And when you say, well, I'm just using my driver's license, and they say, no, you start the process by putting your driver's license in the machine. And at that point, you have to use facial recognition. And I said, well, I'm opting out of that. And they said, well, too bad. You have no choice. Well, this no choice strategy is exactly what we've been saying that TSA is after, trying to eliminate the ability to use just a driver's license. The manager called over the manager. The manager proceeded to say, well, I know this doesn't make sense, but we have a new policy here. And once you put your driver's license in the scanning machine, you have to go through facial recognition. Even if you step out and step back, sorry, you have to use facial recognition. And so I said, no, that's not the law. You don't have to use facial recognition, and you're misleading people if you tell them to put your driver's license in the machine, and then you tell them because you've done that, you can no longer use your driver's license instead of facial recognition. It's insane. This is big government coming to take away your privacy, trying to set up a national surveillance system using your faces, using the airports as the key mechanism. I will continue to fight this every step of the way.
You can't get everyone you need through all these hyper monitored leftist urban rat cages like New York and Chicago and DC, etc. The way to capture more individuals is to make sure that when you fly, because sometimes people have no option in terms of flying, we'll get you there. We'll find out what's going on. Oh, I still have some time. I still have 20 minutes left. So you've heard this before. You're going to hear it again.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
Here's a happy story. We talked about USAID, right? Doge finds and discovers. This is courtesy of the Washington Free Beacon. Doge finds $2 billion in taxpayer funds earmarked for Stacey Abrams linked group. Now, at this point, you're probably wondering, and I am too, when are we, the American taxpayer, going to say something similar to, you know what, this is enough. This is enough. I'm not going to attempt to foment violence or any of that kind of stuff. I don't need anybody visiting here. I already have my own personal FBI agent. I don't need a set of them, like 10 or 12, because the RA is just around the corner. But when are people going to say, you know, we had actual bad stuff, I'm not going to say the W word, over things like this for less. We've gone against countries for less. Doge discovered $2 billion in taxpayer funds. Our money, ours, set aside for a fledgling nonprofit linked to perennial Georgia Democrat candidate Stacey Abrams, who is an election denier. And I'd like to add, a rampant black female racist, so I added it. And you want to find out how things make sense? This was very well done, but replace democracy, the word democracy, with bureaucracy, and see how this all pans out.
If the Democrats fail, it might be the end of American bureaucracy.
Our bureaucracy really is in fundamental peril.
The foundations of American bureaucracy under attack. They want to destroy our bureaucracy.
We are a bureaucracy in danger.
We're watching an election where people are on the ballot openly advocating the end of bureaucracy.
That's what Republicans are doing, attacking bureaucracy, attempting to destroy bureaucracy, and they're doing it with glee.
This is the end
of
bureaucracy in America.
When will America stop sleepwalking towards the end of bureaucracy?
Right. It's Democrats versus, as Bill Kristol says, the end of bureaucracy.
We are
Bill Kristol, who never met a leftist or a Democrat he didn't love.
Essentially, as Neil put it, one vote away from sort of the end of bureaucracy as we know it.
I think our bureaucracy and the stability of that bureaucracy is really the thing on the ballot and really so important.
And they're right. They're correct. As far as they're concerned, bureaucracy over everything, process, etc. Like I said, we did have a win today, and you have to realize. I'm sure most of the people do. I'm speaking to. Well, I am. I hope I'm speaking to logical human beings, but you have to ask and posit. Posit, P-O-S-I-T, not pause it like your VCR. VCR, what the hell is that, BZ? Beta, VHS, dating. You have to ask yourself, why was it that Kash Patel was the only guy left, the only big name, so to speak, left yet to be confirmed? And that Republicans actually had to go and crash bowling pins and whatnot down the alley to be able to do it. And can you feature this? I'm sure you can. Shit. The other good thing that happened today, because I was just thinking about, Rick Robinson. I was on the Rick Robinson. Well, I wasn't, but I was in the chat of Rick Robinson's show. And I said, hey, happy stuff. And, hey, did you see Mitch McConnell? He kind of wept a little bit. There was a little weepy McConnell tear. He's not coming back next year. Great. But just when I said that his only job from now until when he ends is just to shit in the DJT Trump, the Trump bowl, punch bowl. Were you shocked when today, when Kash Patel passed confirmation, he was confirmed, Mitch McConnell voted yes. Do you know who didn't vote yes? Who voted no? On the Republican side, Lisa Murkowski, Alaska, Susan Collins, Maine. Maine, you're hopeless. You're going to keep voting for her in perpetuity. I get that. Alaska, what the fuck happened to you? You guys are nuts. But why Kash Patel? Why so much pushback on this guy?
Who has Jeffrey Epstein's
Black Book?
Black Book?
FBI.
But who? That is that. I mean, there's
that's under direct control of the director of the FBI. Just like the manifesto from the Nashville school shooting of the Catholic school. We still haven't seen that, right? It's not the Nashville police or PD saying we don't want this out. The FBI airmailed into that operation and said this is not getting out. Because they do that because this is another government gangster operation. All these local law enforcement communities get funding from the DOJ and FBI for local programs. And if you don't
Stop. Did you hear the link? Money.
Operate, you're not getting your $1 million for this, and you're not getting and that's a lot of money to these local districts.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's how they play the game. That's why you don't have a black book.
But the Black Book, it's not just sitting. I mean, that's Hoover power times 10.
And to me, that's a thing I think
add Hoover plus the benefit of technology.
President Trump should run on. On day one, roll out the Black Book. And not just that. On day one, roll out all of the text messaging communications we were told were deleted. On day one, play the rest of the video of the pipe bomber. On day, he need one of the reforms I talk about.
Okay, you guys do know. The NSA has been in all of our telecoms for decades. There is, when the Secret Service said, the texts were deleted, we don't know. The NSA has everything. The only justification for their new building in Utah was to create an even larger server farm to keep all their take.
Government gangsters is you need a central node to be continuously declassifying. This is another thing they do. They overclassify. And I'm telling you, as the former number 2 in the IC, they overclassify 50% of the stuff there to protect the deep state. Oh, no, you can't see that. Nothing to see here. Gina was a master at it, of doing it. And we still haven't seen half of the Russiagate report that we wrote. Still under lock and key. On how the ICA was originally constructed. We put 10,000 man hours against John Brennan's team that did it. And we found out why they came up with their bogus conclusion.
Oh, you mean John Brennan, the guy that lied to Congress? Nah, no problem.
But we couldn't sell it to the world because we couldn't talk about it. And the government gangsters came in and buried it. All of these things, there needs to be a continuing central power, whether it's the White House or offsite, that says every request that comes in, just right out the door, as long as it's not a major threat to national security.
So whose ox got gored? Tulsi Gabbard's ox got gored. She might be taking a little bit of upsettedness to the DNI position. Kash Patel, both Kash and Tulsi, got screwed, SCRUDE, over by government, and now They be large and in charge. And sphincters are clenching all over DC. And I'm sure you've seen, God, if I'd been thinking about this, I would have put the graphic up. Did you see all the houses for sale in the DC area? Upper six-figure homes, $1 million homes, $2 million homes. And what do you think that the biggest Google search is right now? Countries with no extradition treaty with the United States of America. Guaranteed. Because you got to know that stuff. The rats are going to be deserting the ship. Now, what did I say this was? Let's continue.
It's time for
more
happy stories and good times.
And this is why I call it the deep state. Just know this. Democrats far outnumber conservatives in government. And here's what department is the worst. And here we go. I didn't have that. But here's the graphic. Democrats dominate. I went to the happy story thing a little bit too early. It will get happier. Trust me, it'll get happier. But you need to know this. Democrats dominate every department. Number one, housing and urban development. Democrat proportion, 72%. State, 74%. Health and Human Services, 63%. Justice, 63%. Education, 68%. Do you see who has to be eliminated here? Do you see why I put this up here? That's where you go first. Education, 68%. Labor, 60%. Transportation, 60%. Commerce, 57%. Treasury, 58%. Interior, 53%. Agriculture, 52%. Homeland Security, 46%. Veterans Affairs, 39%. Yeah, because not that many veterans are conservatives. Less than 50%, thank God. Energy, 42%. So who's the biggest dog in the household? The Department of State. That's why I showed this to you. So who's going to have the greatest amount of pushback? It's going to be Marco Rubio at the Department of State. Here's another thing that I find, okay, this is what the happy story applies to. Because we had to do this periodically. But now, why didn't they do this under the Biden administration when SCOTUS was leaked? When all of those pieces of information were going out? When Comey leaked? Kristi Noem reportedly warned DHS employees she's going to start polygraphing them over leaking to the media, comma, and then those cases are going to get referred over to Pam Bondi in the AG's office. Now, if that's not a damned happy story, I don't know what is. President Trump goes scorched earth, fires all Biden U.S. attorneys. Okay, you may not know this. All the USAs in every district, the standard tradition is under the guise of a new president, each USA submits a letter of resignation. And it's mostly kind of common that, with some exceptions, the new president comes in and says, I don't refuse your letter of resignation. You're a wonderful guy or gal. I love you. I want to keep you. Fires them all. They submitted their resignation. That's tradition. Fine. Cool. Go with it. And so OMB, he went with it. And here's another one. Media elites, because AP, Associated Press, got kicked out of the briefings because they weren't going to go along. Well, you got to use pronouns like him and ziz and zer and knuckle doofer and fucknut and squirrel up your anus. You have to call me by all of these names, but if we on the AP, we don't feel like calling it the Gulf of America, even though it's in Google, etc. Well, so media elites call for the boycott of Donald Trump in support of AP speech codes, to which I say, by the way, you have noticed that none of them abided by this. Jim Costa was full. He was pumped up. I want to see everybody in support of me, unify around me. No, that didn't happen. To which I say, I wish this would have. There might have been 3 outlets sitting in press briefing rooms. Might have been Fox News. Certainly would have been Peter Doocy. Maybe OAN, maybe Newsmax, maybe News Nation. Don't know of anybody else. Maybe Breitbart and some folks like that. Great. I wish that would have happened. That would have been glorious. Here's another. Really didn't see this coming. Judge Chutkan, who was all over Trump, rejects the call from Democratic AGs, attorney generals, for temporary restraining order blocking Doge's access to federal data. I speak Judge. What that basically means is Doge access to federal data is not blocked. That's what a great story. Circuit Court puts final nail in coffin of Biden's $500 billion student loan forgiveness plan. This is basically it for the student loan plan. You know, students, you assembled it. You wanted it. You went after it. You wanted the loan. You signed on the line. That ain't my loan. That is your loan. Own up to it. Because, let's see, what did Lieutenant General Russell Honore say after Katrina? He said something similar to, oh, you can't fix stupid. There's no fixing stupid. Hey, look, Biden loves it. Obama loves it. Why shouldn't we want to pare back government?
Budget reform is not an option. It's a necessity.
Thank you.
The American people are entitled to transparency.
We can't sustain a system that bleeds billions of taxpayer dollars on programs that have outlived their usefulness or exist solely because of the power of politicians, lobbyists, or interest groups.
They're entitled to be able to figure out where their dollars are going, and they're entitled to accountability to make sure that we're using the dollars for what we said it was for.
We are going to go through our federal budget, as I promised during the campaign, page by page, line by line, eliminating those programs we don't need and insisting that those that we do need operate in a sensible, cost-effective way.
Hey, do you guys remember the movie Dave? And I can't remember the name of the actor, but he brought in his own personal auditor. Dave was the fake president who looked just like the real president who had a heart attack. And the fake president took advantage of the situation and said, you know, why don't I go through the budget line by line by line? And here's Ernie. Here's my auditor. Here's my tax accountant. Ernie, go through this and see if you can find some cool stuff to eliminate.
Should be easy is getting rid of the pointless waste and stupid spending that doesn't benefit anybody.
We hope to be instilling an entire new culture that not only our administration, but every succeeding administration will in fact pursue.
No amount of waste is acceptable, not when it's your money.
No amount of waste is acceptable, even when it's your money, except when we get paid and we are on the pad and when we are on the take, when we are the benefactors of all this wonderful extra cash paid for by American taxpayer. Do not look. This is not the audit you're looking for. Move on.
We all know the government can be inefficient. We all know that the bureaucracy can be bloated. We all worked in the fucking White House. We tried to reorganize the government. We tried to find efficiency. It's hard to do.
And honestly, some of this is pretty annoying because it's some of the stuff we should have done.
Thank you. Everyone should have done all of this. But again, Donald John Trump. Why did it take Donald John Trump to say, hey, what have you got to lose? My tent is big and wide and it's open. I don't care who you are. I don't care your color. Come on in. My tent is open and I want you. And as a result, why was he the first Republican ever to say anything like that? Come on in. The water's fine. You've tried all this other crap. Now try me. Why did it take him to do that? Why did it take him for Doge? People said, oh, you got Elon Musk. You brought him in, and we didn't know this was coming. It was terrible. You slapped us up in the face for something that you didn't run on. Bullshit. He ran and he said that he was grabbing Elon Musk to do exactly what he's doing now. Then he received his mandate in terms of the Electoral College and the popular vote. And then it's all, oh, this is so bad, so bad.
Republicans feel very confident, by and large, fighting on this. I think they believe, rightly so, that government jobs are not lifetime contracts. Everyone in the private sector outside of government understands what layoffs are. They understand what buyouts are.
Yeah.
And everyone's been affected by it or knows someone who has. So the idea that this is foreign to people, it might be unfortunate, but it's a fact of life. And I think, if Democrats want to be the party defending, by Republican standards, bureaucrats and foreign aid, we'll have that fight. I'll have it every day.
And the fight is going to be every day. Well, I hate to say it. This is the end of the show. Okay, I got to show you guys this because some illustrations require this. Okay. This is the stuff that I talked about. These little things right here are just tabs inserted in here to keep my mind organized. So those aren't stories that I was going to talk to. Tonight, I only got to here. Right here. See that? I had all this other stuff over here to talk about. And of course, like a good little BZ, like I've told you on numerous occasions, yeah, I didn't get to it. I want to do another show. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show this lovely Thursday night, the second month, the 20th day, the year of our Lord 2025. And I want to thank KLRN for simulcasting on this. And I also want to tell everybody that, just like regular, promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, also by Shure and Electro Voice microphones, the Arrakis board, the one that I have right now, Pratt & Whitney engines producing thrust you can trust, and tiaras are by My Little Pony. Thanks to my guest tonight, who was me, just me, no one but me, and me, the fat guy, otherwise known as the bulbous one, who has gravitational pull like a planet. So, folks, also, thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I shall be consorting in less than a half hour, about 20 to 30 feet that way, depending on how stumbling bad I am and how things get. Everyone, thanks for being here. God bless. Take care. Be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.